Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Gaming Block Podcast, the number one podcast for all the pertinent video game news spanning across all platforms, including Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, and more. I'm your host, Andrew Arana, and today I'm joined by one half of the bad boys of video games, Jacob Ward, now in HD. On this week's episode of the Gaming Block, we will be talking about Bethesda making some interesting remarks regarding the PS5. Nope, I cut that. The mysterious story around a new game codenamed Abandoned. Yeah, we'll talk about that. The results of our E3 predictions, and much more. But before we get into all of that, tradition dictates that I ask Jake how his previous week has been. Jake, it's been precisely 3 days since we last did a podcast
Right.
because of E3.
Oh man, it's been such a long 3 days. I've just been working mostly. In the last day and a half, I've just been kind of getting my house more finished, I guess. Bedroom is looking a lot better than it was a couple days ago. I donated plasma, which was interesting.
Nice.
I wouldn't say it was fun, but it's rewarding.
Paycheck at the end was fun.
Yeah. I got a little bit of money.
I'm starting to notice the real bags around my eyes.
You don't sleep.
I don't sleep anymore. I just work constantly. We
Who
put
has
up.
time for that?
I don't even know if we count the podcast from last week, the last episode with me and Roger, plus all the reactions, or not even the reactions, but the post episodes. We probably put up 5-6 hours of content.
Oh yeah,
last week
we shotgunned a lot of stuff out last week,
and I'll admit at the end the editing was getting real sloppy. Like I it was a lot, and I didn't upload those until I think yesterday. The last two, the Nintendo and the Microsoft one. So if you haven't checked that out yet, go ahead and podcast services. But hey, you're seeing us on YouTube. Hello, hi, we're back. You made a notice that we were gone from YouTube for a while. I was trying to figure out what to do with the podcast in regards to YouTube, and I thought of a couple things. I thought of making a new channel for it. I thought of never releasing on it again for you slimy buggers. But then I decided that's not fair. And thanks to E3, actually, Jake and Roger went out and bought webcams. So I decided, why not use their investment and start video podcasting? So you're going to notice right now there's only two of us. So the orientation of the video will be a little different depending on how many people are there. If it's two, we'll just have side by side. And if it's three, I'll kind of do it 1, 2, and then maybe 3.
If you make it like for us this week, just make it like Call of Duty World at War's multiplayer split screen.
Well, I was thinking like maybe with the backgrounds, I could find one that's animated. It would probably be a still image for this one just because it's so short notice. But I don't know. It would be nice if it was video game designed. It probably won't end up being video game designed this time. It'll just be something. But it would be cool if we could have like themed backgrounds. Maybe I could commission Susan to do that.
I know
or something,
the game grumps have something that's kind of like simple that they use on all theirs. It's just an orange background with like a different shade of orange dots, just kind of moving slowly from one corner to the next.
Yeah, I mean, we could do something like that. There's so many things that we could do.
Something simple.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but then I was like, it would be kind of cool if we did like something unique. I don't know. But either way, here we are. Hello, hi. You get to see all my bags and wrinkles in 4K. It's actually recording at 1080p, I think. It up-reses to 4K.
This webcam told me it was up to 4K image quality. Now, I paid $20 for it. Yeah, so I don't believe that.
It upscales to 4K.
Okay. Very grainy.
I mean, of course. But here we are. Hi, hello. Beautiful webcams. I mean, you've seen my face many times on this YouTube channel if you watch it at all. You've probably even seen Jake's a couple times. So this isn't anything too new, but for the podcast, it is new. And if you aren't watching us on the video, if you're still listening to us on the podcast services, we appreciate you. Thank you. Listen to this however you want. If you want to listen to it on YouTube, go ahead and do that. If you want to watch it on YouTube, go ahead and do that. If you want to listen to us on a tractor in the middle of a field on your Microsoft Zune, go ahead. Who am I to
I,
judge?
I don't know if podcasts are supported on the Zune anymore.
Life finds a way. Um, but Jake, so
Mhm.
we did E3 and you've been working a bit. Have you been able to sneak in any game time at all? You've been playing anything?
I actually have. I sat down and started playing MK9 on PlayStation Now the past couple
Interesting.
days. So I just got a little over halfway through the campaign. I found out I'm really good as Katana,
Yeah.
um, and I suck as oh, who was it? It was Jax. Like I'm just
Yeah.
awful with him. One thing I hate about that game, and I forgot about it because it's been years since I played it. Like the last time I played it was when the complete edition first came out on the 360.
Hmm.
Um, the tag battles in the campaign are so unfair. I don't know if you played MK9,
Mm-mm.
but just randomly, it seems like every chapter near like the beginning or the end, it's I don't know, it's usually the first battle or the last battle.
Yeah.
They'll throw in a tag battle where you fight two fighters at the same time. They can switch out, or they could you beat one, you beat the next one,
Yeah. Yeah.
and but there's no handicaps. You get the same amount of life bars you usually do. They have two full fighters life bars, and you know how NetherRealm's AI is. You can even put it on
Yep.
beginner, and it's bullshit.
Yep.
And I got to it was a fight with Scorpion and Quan Chi. And I'm like, this is sucks. Like even on beginner, I spent probably like an hour on that fight trying to get past it.
Yeah, man, that
Um,
was I played Injustice and Injustice 2 recently, and I was going
mhm,
to go to Mortal Kombat next to do
mhm.
9, 10, and 11, but I want to take a break
Yeah, it's probably
because
smart.
I played those on the easiest difficulty because I was doing it for the story, and
Hmm.
even then, there were some fights on the easiest difficulty where I just got my ass kicked. I'm like, this is supposed to be like toddler level
I
difficulty.
know it's stupid too. Like there's like I was playing as Katana. I just wiped everyone out. And then right before that, I was playing as Smoke, and I'm pretty good at Smoke. He's usually like my main if he's available in the roster. Um, but I smoked the first two people, and I fought Ermac,
Pun
and
intended.
he just destroyed me. And then I fought him again. I just was like, all right, that was easy.
Yeah, yeah,
He barely even hit me the second time.
yeah.
I feel
It's
like there's like I've always had this theory that the AI has a this guy's winning meter, whereas in you start doing really good, it ups the difficulty artificially in the background.
No, I think so too.
Hmm.
I think so as well. I think it's really bullshit, but that's cool that you're playing
Hmm.
it through PS Now.
Hmm.
A fighting game too, so latency isn't that bad.
On the PS5, it wasn't bad at all. On the PS4, which is in my bedroom, so it's a little bit away from my router. At first, it was having some issues with the like I had a really long cutscene that I had to watch again because I saved and quit right after a long cutscene, and there's no way to skip them in 9.
Yeah,
So I had to watch through all that, and it was struggling during that cutscene. But because it was so long, I think it had a chance to kind of like catch up and
to chug.
optimize
Yeah. Hmm.
itself.
Hmm.
So it was doing pretty good. There was only a couple instances where I had a little bit of a lag, but other than that, it felt like I was playing it straight off of the PlayStation.
And that
So
was on Wi-Fi.
hmm
That's pretty good.
on the PS4.
Yeah, I have
So
my Pro. Granted, it's 5 feet away from the router, so
hmm
it's pretty about as close as you can get. I don't have any problems at all playing PS Now. I've played God of War 2 through PS Now. I've streamed Sonic, that Sonic Forces
hmm
game, and some other. And then on PS5, actually with the PS5, I don't know. I was going through Wi-Fi and I was having some just random hiccups here and there. Like
hmm
the PS5's Wi-Fi, I don't know if you've noticed this, but the PS4 did this too actually. It just kind of disconnects sometimes randomly. And
I
it'll
have
just be like,
actually never had my PS5 connected wirelessly.
"Oh, you've always hardwired it?"
It's always been hardwired since the day I
Oh,
bought it.
okay.
So I've never had issues with the Wi-Fi unless my Wi-Fi is having issues.
Okay, okay. Yeah, cuz it's weird cuz like I'll start the PS5, I'll turn it on,
Hmm.
and the first thing that says is your console's offline. But after like 5 seconds, it'll connect to online. I'm like, "Why is it not connected right away?" Like
Yeah,
and then
it's.
it was just very weird because I was doing that again, Sonic racing game on the
Hmm.
PS5, celebrating Sonic because fuck Zelda. And I would play 4 races and it's like perfect. It definitely there is some latency you can tell with like racing games and fighting games especially. You
Hmm.
can feel it. And I played that game downloaded and then I played it streaming and I could feel the difference. I was like, yeah, there is. It's not unplayable. I beat the game streaming the whole way through, but there's definitely like a little bit of latency to where it just feels a little different. You have to
Hmm.
readjust to it. But then just randomly on like the fifth or sixth race, I'd be driving and it would freeze, and I'd always know I'd pause and it would be like frozen, and then I'd unpause and then I'd pause again, and then I'd start moving in the menu, and then it would like catch up, and then like pop into four or like 1080p or whatever it is, and then it'd be fine. And I'm like, I don't understand why it's doing this.
We're getting there.
They're learning,
Like it's
and
streaming video games is definitely a new thing.
yeah, and
And
it's cool that it does work, kind of.
And Sony was at the forefront of it, so I think they're gonna be the ones who get it like figured out first. Because with the
Maybe
Game Pass, can you stream games or is it just download only?
so Game Pass you can stream games, but it's
Hmm.
not every game, and it's in beta. I only tried it once on my cell phone using cell
Hmm.
phone
Oh,
towers,
that's the XCloud thing they're doing, right?
and it was the worst streaming experience I've ever had. And I can already hear people being like, "Well, Andrew, of course it's bad. You're on your phone." I'll have you know, I switched off of it and went to Stadia, and it ran fine.
Oh yeah, Stadia
Like
runs
I've
really
I've
good.
used Stadia on my mobile data plenty of times, and it works. Hey, it's not the best quality, but it does work.
Hmm.
But I tried playing. I don't remember what Xbox game it was, and it was just like it was a fucking no go. The sound was all fucked up. The controls somehow were fucked up. Like especially right trigger to shoot, and it was like it was just all wrong. It was all wrong. And I was like, you can tell because I remember that was like one of the big hype things for Xbox was like, oh, they're gonna challenge PS Now. They got Game Pass, and then they're getting these X Cloud, and then they got these I think they're called like Zerg or something servers. I don't know.
Like
They're bragging about it's
like
just a brand of servers,
okay,
but they're bragging about like, oh, our servers are
I
the
thought you were gonna say
fastest.
StarCraft, the Zerg.
No, but they're bragging like, "Oh, our servers will stream it directly to you and zero latency." And people are fucking drinking the marketing Kool Aid. And then the thing doesn't work so bad that it's in beta, and not all the games are for it. And I don't even know if you can stream from console. I think right now it's just PC and mobile.
That's weird.
So Xbox really dropped the ball on streaming, but that doesn't really
Hmm.
matter because they have Game Pass. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like, I'll take Game Pass over streaming. With PS Now, though, it doesn't have that. Well, it's definitely an argument of preferences because
Hmm.
PS Now has a lot of games, and it's hard to be like, oh, the games aren't as good on PS Now. It depends on what you like. If you
Hmm.
like a lot of retro games, especially PS3 games, PS Now
Hmm.
is great. And I do think it's gotten better, even from like I've had PS Now for 2 years now, and I can tell in the last 2 years it's gotten better. They
Yeah.
have added 1080p mode because before it was 720 capped, and now it's 1080. And PS on the PS5, even though it does have those hiccups here and there, I beat God of War straight up all the way through, and that's streaming only. And if, like 99% of my experience was flawless. So it's getting there. And I understand that people, this isn't going to be their preferred way to play, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be, but I like that it is still an option. And I think you were saying that Sony will be the first to do it best. I honestly think Google might be, and I know people shit on
Hmm.
Stadia a lot, but Stadia does work, which is the craziest thing. Like, if you have that good internet, which a lot of people don't have, I'm blessed. I do get those 1 gig a second speeds. Like I have pretty decent, pretty good internet here. And I play Stadia and I'll play Resident Evil 7 on my, whatever the Chromecast or
Hmm.
whatever.
The Ultra.
Yeah. And it works. And I don't even have an Ethernet cord plugged into it. And
I
I'm
think
like,
it's.
this
Oh
is,
yeah, you can. Never mind.
yeah, you can on the Ultra. But I don't even do it. And I'm like, this works fantastically.
Hmm.
And I don't have any problems with it. And I think PlayStation, they have those, I think they're Gaikai. That's who they bought back in like 2011. And I think they got their old servers, but now they have to start updating them. And that's what we're seeing the process of. That's why we're getting better quality now and stuff.
Hmm.
And actually, I think it was a report last year that Sony and Microsoft are both talking to Google about sharing technology to make streaming better for all of them.
Ooh, could you imagine if with that deal we got Stadia on both consoles?
That would be so nice. I don't think that's gonna happen.
That'd be neat.
And that's actually we can
Just a way to
talk
get around
about
the Chromecast. But
we can talk about something else too, because there was a report that Netflix is gonna start having games on its platform.
I mean, it kind of does already
It kind of
with their
does.
interactive movies.
Yeah, so they're talking about that. They're talking about whatever that Bandersnatch I think it was called.
Yeah,
And I think they had another one, but they're talking about like
they had
real
Minecraft story mode.
yeah, but that wasn't like it's kind of dumbed down a little bit
Hmm.
for that. But apparently they're looking to bring games to the platform, and I think that's very interesting.
Now, do you think they'll raise the price another $5,
Maybe.
making it like $25 a month, or is it $25 a month now? I don't even know.
I don't know.
I don't pay for it.
I don't use Netflix. Wink, wink.
But you could have you could wrong. You could have just winked. You just stared at the camera and said wink, wink.
I'm too used to I'm getting exposed now. Not used to having the camera on me. Um, I find it interesting though, because you hear all the time like Game Pass coming to PlayStation. Will
Hmm.
that ever happen? Personally, I fucking hope so.
It'd be cool.
And but at the
And he
same
still makes
time,
Xbox money.
I could see Sony being like, we have PS Now. If we put Game Pass on here, no one's gonna get PS Now.
What if they put
So
PS Now on
no.
Xbox?
I think see that would be like a perfect world scenario of they're like,
Hmm.
hey, Stadia, PS Now, Game Pass. These are the three competing subscription services. It is a little silly, at least for the streaming part. Like, I don't think you could actually download Xbox games on the PS5 if it was on there, but xCloud could be on there.
Hmm.
And in an ideal world, in a perfect world, I think it would be great to turn on my PS5 and there's my PS Now tab, and right by it, there's my Stadia tab, and then by that, there's my
Now,
xCloud tab, and
has
same on
anyone
Xbox.
has anyone tried accessing Stadia through the browsers on there?
I'm sure people have. I don't know if
Okay,
it works, but
be
I
interesting.
think that would be Stadia's saving grace because you can already use other controllers with it.
Hmm.
So that'd just be great, like especially for someone like
Honestly,
me,
I
because
think their controller in Chromecast Ultra setup is dying.
yeah, it was. I think it was a good idea
Hmm.
to have a controller with it, and then to have that thing too, because it gives it like an identity. Like this is Chromecast Ultra. If you have it for streaming things, weird. Okay, you either have a smart TV, I feel like, or a game console or something else. But
Hmm.
sure, maybe you are someone that still gets Roku's or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, but it is nice to be like, this is how you play Stadia. You get this, and you get the controller, and you want to play it. But you can play with an Xbox and a PlayStation controller, or you can get our controller, and it's nice just having that identity. This is
yeah.
Stadia, because I feel
It,
like if it launched without a controller, it would be like, this is weird.
yeah, I mean Chromecast that never had a controller.
Yeah, true. Which
I
is weird.
honestly I've never seen any practical use for a Chromecast
Me neither.
until the Oculus Quest and Stadia came out.
Yep. That's why I wanted it
Just,
originally was
mhm.
to stream Quest games, and then I was like, oh wait, it plays its own games too.
Yeah,
Cool.
I mean kind of.
Yeah, I mean
Is it through the
Google.
controller? Is it through the Chromecast? I don't know. It's kind of both
Yeah,
because the controller connects to Wi-Fi and it connects to Wi-Fi, and then like I don't know.
it's all about latency and something. They're
Yeah,
figuring something out over there. Uh,
don't worry, the controller's gone forever now. So
no, I need to get my wasabi color too.
your what?
They have the different colors. They have the white. I think they have black, and then they have
Oh,
wasabi, which is green.
I thought they were like discontinuing the controllers or whatever. I didn't know
It
they had
might
other
be.
colors and stuff.
I don't know.
I know like Best Buy just like clearanced all theirs out.
Well, you should have told me. I would have gone bought some.
It was like $50 for the combo pack for the Ultra and the
Mm.
controller.
I know on Google's website they're still selling them because I
Okay,
just checked the other day.
I
Unless it
know
was
they're
like this
constantly giving them
week.
away,
Yeah, smart
which is the only
idea.
reason I have one. Is I got that for being a YouTube Premium subscriber.
Yeah. So, anyways, I completely forgot how we got on this topic.
I was talking about Mortal Kombat on
Oh yeah,
PlayStation
that's
Now,
right. That's right.
which
Um,
like, back to where you're saying like they're both good. I've like as far as qualities from what I've experienced on the two, it's about even on both. Honestly, like playing Mortal Kombat today on my PS4 across the house from my router on Wi-Fi, like that's the best experience I've had on it. Just not on the PS5 because that's mean. PS4 I've
mhm.
never had good experience with PlayStation Now unless I've downloaded something.
It's so weird.
Um, but yeah, it ran really really well surprisingly for Mortal Kombat.
It really is hit or miss.
Mhm.
It really is hit or miss.
And it might just be like depending on the time of day you play it, how many people are on it. I don't know, but
That
I
could
didn't
be it
even have the
too.
best internet. I have 500 meg internet, and it was running on that.
Like
And I did a test on it right before, and my PlayStation was getting 90. So
you don't need a lot, honestly.
no,
Like I
yeah,
think when the Stadia broke down the whole thing, they were like for 4K streaming, you need like 50 megabits a second.
hmm
And it's like that's a lot for some people. That's not a lot for us. Like
hmm
I get mad. I don't get mad, but whenever I test my internet connection, it's like, oh, you're getting 700 megabits per second. I'm like, I'm paying for a gig.
hmm
Like, where's my other 300?
well, yeah, we played for a gig at our last place, and we'd be lucky if we got over 5 or
Yeah.
500.
So, anyways, is that all you've been playing?
Um, I played a little bit of Apple Arcade this week because I got a 6 month free trial for it. So I tested out like Shantae and Marble Up Mayhem and Sayonara Wild Hearts on that, which Sayonara Wild Hearts didn't really play that well at all on mobile.
Yeah,
I mean, it ran well, but it didn't play well. Marble It Up is interesting. It's like all unique levels for mobile versus what it was on console.
that's pretty cool.
And then Shantae, it's Shantae.
Yeah,
I'm really enjoying it, but it's a little difficult to play with the touchscreen. I need to get a controller set up with it. I have the little clip from my Xbox controller, so I'm probably gonna get that going. Um, but I did have some performance issues with Shantae. I don't know why. None of the other games I've had any issues with, but Shantae was one that it just was not running well at certain points.
yeah. I don't know. That's weird because when I played it, it was fine. But phones, they're all different. So
hmm
it's like they're making a game for 30 different platforms.
And if I remember right, this like Apple is the only platform that that game is available for mobilely, unless you have a Switch.
I think so. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
it debuted on Apple
hmm
Arcade. So
Only half of the game was available to play, or like
yep,
the first chapter or something like that.
yeah, it's pretty weird.
hmm I'd
It's
never seen something like that before.
it worked though. I was like, sure, I'll try this to play the
hmm
new Shantae.
I'm also excited because I remember playing at your house when Apple Arcade first came out, the Choo Choo Rocket game. I want to go
Oh
and play
yeah,
that.
that game's fun.
hmm
I forgot they had it on there. I should re-download that.
Like I love Choo Choo Rocket.
Yeah, I mean, I'll that's another thing that I'll praise. I feel like there's so many subscriptions, which I understand. Like, you see EA Play and the Ubisoft Plus and whatever, and I get how you can roll your eyes, like, oh, everything has a subscription. But I
hmm
really do feel like there are some that are worth it. Like, I to the end of days, I will praise Humble Bundle. I think it's worth it if you care about PC games at all. And Apple Arcade is a hell of a deal. It's $5 a month, and they don't take games off the service, which is fantastic. That's my problem with like Game Pass and PS Now and stuff. That
hmm
things come on and off. I get it, but at the same time, I'm like, this sucks. I hate
Like
this.
I really wish that there were like you were saying there's like it's great for like PS3 games on PlayStation Now. I really wish there was more.
Yeah,
Like if they had like the full PlayStation 3 library on that, that would be totally worth it right
I
there.
understand how they couldn't have the full PS3 library, but at
hmm
least have the full PS3 first party library.
Yeah,
You
like
know,
because they only have like
and same with
it's weird
PS2.
like Resistance. They only have a couple of like Resistance titles on
Yeah,
there. They only have the PlayStation 2 titles that are available to buy on PS4, and
and
not even all of them.
they definitely like they absolutely should put PS1 classics on there.
hmm
They absolutely should put PS2 classics. They have
I
some. They have
think
like 10 PS2
because
games.
I know they can't get like the games you purchased on PS3 to work on
Well, no,
PS4 and stuff, but that would be a cool way around it is if your purchases from the PlayStation 3 store are available to play on PlayStation Now.
to stream it or something,
Yeah.
or just put them all up on there.
Yeah.
And honestly, they should put PlayStation TV games on there too.
hmm
Like those Vita games that were ported to PS TV, they work on a TV. They work with a controller. stream them, download them, whatever. PlayStation has such a robust library.
Dude, if we get
Library,
Persona 4 Golden on
library.
there, that'd be awesome.
If they any personas, I don't think any of them are on there. I think 5 was on there for a
No.
while,
Yeah, it was like a limited time thing.
but I don't understand because it definitely is like it's so weird because PS Now has good games on it, but it has like 900 games, and then you go through it and it's like, oh, they have 7 WWE games, they have 7 MLB games. It's
They have
like,
like 7 FIFA games too. It's
yeah,
really
and then
waste of space.
they just have like these small indie games, which indie games are good sometimes, and then but a lot of them are just like this is kind of trash, and they
You
have
know,
bad games on there.
something better they could do with that instead of having a bunch of old sports games. Make sure you have the most recent one every single year on there, and then they just drop the old one off when the new one comes on.
I kind of understand having older ones because some people do like specific ones. They
Hmm.
do take things out, add things in, different rosters and stuff. But if you're gonna
As far as like
have,
a subscription service goes, I feel like that would make the most sense as far as having sports titles on there.
yeah, because you can go buy a sports game for $2 like
Yeah.
in 3 years. Even now, the newest NBA game's like $30. You can get it for PS5, and it
Oh yeah, it's
launches
like
70.
it's like a week after they come out, they're down like $20.
Yeah, so that would work too. But I just don't understand. Like, we have 0 PS5 games, which I kind of understand because there's no PS5 games to talk about, and
Yeah,
we're going to talk a little bit about that too later. But like, they put Horizon on there, but it was limited time for 6 months. Like, why? Is it because of the PS Plus collection?
maybe.
But it shouldn't be. If
No.
people are paying for PS Now, you should reward them. Like, why isn't every PlayStation exclusive, let's just say 2016 and back on there? Every first party game that you own should be on there.
You know what's really silly that's on there? I noticed the other day. Saints Row 4 on PS3 is on there, and then Saints Row 4 Remastered is also on there. I'm like, why are both of these on here?
Why isn't Saints Row 3 on there?
Right?
There's just weird omissions sometimes. It's like they'll have the first game, second game, and fourth game, you know? Or they won't have the first, but they'll have the second and third. I don't think there's. I think there's one Hot Shots game. I think the PS3 Hot Shots is on there. That's it. And there's like 10 of those. I don't
Yeah.
know. PS Now I think is great, and I do think it's worth the money. $60 a year, absolutely.
And
Uh,
like a lot of times you can get it for like I got it for $45 for a year.
yeah,
So it goes on sale all the time.
even if you pay $10 a month, I still think it's worth it.
Hmm.
But it definitely is like a service that can do a lot better. And yeah, I'm not saying Xbox has all the answers because Game
Hmm.
Pass does have some weird omissions too.
I'm honestly, I think after Xbox's E3 conference, I think Game Pass is totally going to be worth it after this year.
I think so.
Like hands down, that's the reason you should never buy games on Xbox if you have an Xbox.
Oh, definitely. I hope Sony looked at that
Hmm.
conference and shit themselves. I hope
Because
they. I hope they
PlayStation
went.
now could be that.
It absolutely could, and you don't even have
Mhm.
to give the games out day one because I
No.
know they don't want to do that, and I understand that. But they're doing this whole thing where they're like bringing games to PC, and maybe that's a part of it too. Maybe they just are trying to maximize their dollars. They're trying to
Hmm.
let's release it on this, and then release it on PS Plus, and then release it on PC, and then we'll put it on PS Now. But
Hmm.
if you're gonna make PS Now the last resort thing, then why should we care to pay for it?
I think they're more focused on making PlayStation Plus the best it can be, and they've just kind of let PlayStation Now go to the wayside.
Yeah, and they do have the PS Plus collection, which is
Mhm.
good.
If
We've
you have a
talked about
PS5
that. If you have a PS5, but
or a
even
friend with
then,
PS5.
that's 20 games out of literally hundreds.
Hmm.
Every Gran Turismo game should be available on PS Now.
And there's a lot of weird things on there. I think they have Mortal Kombat X, but they don't have Mortal Kombat 11 on it, even though
Yeah,
11 had been out for a while.
that
Um,
it's there's a lot of weird things on there.
they got Persona 5 instead of Royale on there, which I get that.
We could have a whole
But
discussion, like a whole episode just dedicated to the why
Sony's
PlayStation doesn't
weird
know how to make.
choices.
It's just they don't know how to make services. Well, let's be
No,
honest. PlayStation Plus was a
they don't
canary in the
really know
coal
how to
mine.
do anything except for their mainline home consoles.
PS Plus was a canary in the coal mine. It was a great idea.
Mhm.
Everyone copied them. They're like, oh yeah, we should give free games in our console subscription. But other than that, literally every other service they've had has been subpar at best.
Hmm.
And they've been playing catch up. Even if they're first, like with PS Now, they were way first to the game. We're talking years first. And
Oh
it
yeah,
just
and they did the thing like
X
Stadia's doing now, where they had like their TVs, they had their handhelds, they had phones that could use it, and it was just like
they
it didn't work because of
they
that.
overstretched, but then they
Uh,
overcorrected. Like PS Now needs to be on phones right now.
yeah.
xCloud is on phones. Stadia is on phones. PS Now needs to be on phones, at
Hmm.
least tablets, like they were before. And I understand, like back in 2014, no, people weren't streaming with phones because we were lucky if we got 2 megabits per second on a fucking cell phone.
Yeah.
But people are getting 5G now. You can stream games now.
Hmm.
So, you know,
I mean, I'm glad that they're focusing on making sure that their systems work. Like, it's cool it's on PC, it's cool it's on console. You know, if those work, that's great.
that is
But
cool too. People don't
I think
notice.
they're trying to get that figured out first before they go back to expanding it again.
Well, I think they have it figured out
Hmm.
because people don't realize it is available on PC and it runs. I mean, it runs well on PC.
Hmm.
I have you just download an application. I have it right here on my toolbar, and works perfectly.
Honestly, though,
Carries your save over everything. It's
seeing
perfect.
PlayStation Now and like PlayStation games on PC has just been the weirdest thing this past year.
Yeah, isn't it? Like
Like, I don't see PlayStation and PC ever like being in the same ecosystem.
they've been talking about it a lot at their investor meetings and stuff. How the PC market is something that they're definitely going to invest more into, and they're bringing more games to it. And like
Hmm.
this is a thing now that you're going to see more PlayStation games on PC. So, but anyways, I'm gonna get into what I've been playing. Do you got a ice cream truck over there or something?
It's a sound. I can't tell what's going on. There's like a loud sound. It sounds like it's raining or like my AC's on, but I don't think either of those things are the case. But I don't know. It's not important.
Jake's experiencing a poltergeist in real time. Um,
So
I'm
my
gonna get into
camera
what
goes
I've
off
been.
and then it comes back on. I'm gone. My chair's spinning around.
I'm gonna see something in the background and when I'm in your bathroom, and I'm gonna get scared, even though I'm not there.
Oh yeah, there's the bathroom.
Um, but I've only been playing one thing, and it's not even that much. I tried out the Final Fantasy Origins demo,
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah, this whole conversation at this point just been what I've been doing.
yeah, it's it's gone off. I always
Hmm.
tell Susan, oh, this will be a short one. It's never a short one. But I've been playing this demo, PS5 exclusive until the 22nd, I believe,
Okay.
and
How is it?
it looks better than the trailers showed. It doesn't look
Yeah.
amazing, but I think that's okay. Not everything needs to look amazing. It's okay if some games look average, and I
Hmm.
actually kind of
And
like that
this is a
it's not.
demo, so you know.
Yeah, and it's an alpha too, so
Hmm.
we're not gonna get. This game probably isn't gonna release this year,
No.
so there's still a lot of work to be done on it. We are just talking about how Halo has changed in 8 months, or
It was
actually
a
it's
year.
been
It was
damn near a
literally,
year.
yeah. It was exactly a
Yeah,
year.
yeah. So, um, but I've played it, and it plays like an action game. It has a loot system where you find armor and stuff, and you put it on your character, and you get better defense and attack. And it's everywhere. Like I played 30 minutes of it, and there's chests all over. There's a counter system where it's kind of cool actually because it's not just countering. Say like there's an enemy that shoots a fireball, you can counter the fireball, but then you shoot fireballs back at it,
Hmm.
and that can lead to different things. Like it was like a little mini puzzle with that one. You shot fire back into it, and then it exploded, and that's how you defeated those enemies. So it's like, okay, it's not just like a hack and slash. There's some strategy to this, with different enemies.
Would you say there's a triangle strategy?
No, it's definitely not that. But um, I don't know how many classes there are. This is definitely um going back to its roots. I mean, it is a Final Fantasy One prequel type thing. They're talking
Hmm.
about chaos, the
I'm
enemy
going
of
to kill chaos.
the trailer is
I must
ridiculous,
kill chaos.
but it has a class system, which is really cool.
Hmm.
If you have never played the original Final Fantasy game, it worked off a class system instead of the traditional you know characters just being someone else. And Jake's very concerned right now.
I don't know. It just sounds. I don't know. I just want to know what it is. I'm still listening though.
It's probably your neighbors. But in Final Fantasy One, you kind of chose what your character was going to be. So you had your fighter. You traditionally had like a thief, a warrior, a white mage, which would do like healing spells, a black mage, which would do like fire, water type spells. And it's cool because in this game, you start off as a warrior, you have this giant sword and stuff, and then you come up to this fire, and it's like, oh, change your class, and you just hit the button, and it changes you to a black mage, and then you bring up this wheel, and you have like fire, water, rock, all the different abilities, and you can use them on enemies. But I think I haven't actually tried it on enemies, but I'm presuming that you can use on enemies. But I
Mhm.
put the fire out with using the water spell, and water came out. I was like, that's really cool. And there's
Just like
abilities to upgrade.
Salon.
Nope. um,
Another
but
great Square title.
there's you upgrade your abilities. Of course, you get like skill points. I don't know how the game will work, but in demo you get them pretty fast. And
Hmm.
they have passive ones. You unlock different combos. So like if you do like bumper bumper trigger, it'll do something else when you unlock that combo and put it into the specific sword slot. It looks pretty cool. It's definitely more than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be pretty basic. I mean,
Hmm.
the acting is definitely over the top
Yeah,
Japanese. Uh,
which I love that shit.
yeah, it's fine. Like
Hmm.
people can make fun of it all you want. I think it's
Because I am the president of the United States.
exactly right. Metal Gear. Final Fantasy's always kind of been over. Like, just fucking look at Barrett from Final Fantasy VII.
Oh
he's
my gosh,
he's
how fast he punches
ridiculously
that punching bag.
yeah. Um, but I like it so far, and
Mhm.
I'm really digging like all the references and like
That's
it
cool.
really is going. It is origins. It's going back to its roots. Like we're gonna work on the things from this game from the '80s and expand on it.
That's
And
cool.
I'm like, this is fun so far.
Now you haven't beaten it yet.
No, I don't know how far the demo goes. I'll probably play a little bit more of it,
Okay.
and then
I
whenever
want.
maybe they'll have a beta or something. I don't
I
know.
do want to warn you. I heard the final boss is a bitch and a half.
That's okay. This game is being made by the people that made Neo,
Okay.
so I would
Oh
be
yeah, it's Team
surprised.
Ninja. That makes
hmm
sense. Yeah.
So I'd be surprised if it wasn't kind of hard. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know how other people are feeling about it, but I think if if you set your expectations right, don't look for the most beautiful game. And honestly, you shouldn't really care that much about graphics going into video games. I don't personally. You obviously don't want it to look like ass, but
Hmm.
it doesn't have to be gorgeous, beautiful to be a good game as long as it plays well. And I think this game does, for now, play pretty good, especially because it's in an alpha state. So I'm willing to give it another chance. I'm definitely going to go back.
I've been wanting to download it and try it out.
Yeah,
I kind of hadn't for a bit because I knew the demo was broken for a little bit there. So
yeah, they're doing that like, and it's out now, and it's like, oh, that didn't really work,
yeah,
but
like
it's good
it was
now.
saying it was corrupt on everyone's systems that tried to download it.
hmm
So it looks like it's working now.
Yeah, I think they fixed that like the next day.
Okay.
So, but yep, it's all good. And with that in mind, it is once again time for everyone's favorite segment, the gaming riddle. Your gaming riddle for this
Okay.
week, Jake, goes as follows: Bringer of light to this dark world, rid thy world of the filth that plagues the land, and stand victorious over your enemies as you rocket into the sky.
I don't know.
I know it didn't rhyme at all. You get um 5 guesses.
Five guesses. Okay. Bring a light to this dark world. Um, is this a Square game?
No.
No. Okay.
For audio listeners, I'm making a face at the camera right now
Is this
because he's completely stumped.
a Nintendo game?
Yes.
Okay.
Do 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 do
Into the sea.
do do do. Ba, 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 da, ba, ba,
Is
ba,
this a
ba.
Fire Emblem game?
No.
No. Okay.
Ba-ba. You have two more guesses. Remember, one of them has to be the guess of the game.
So I was thinking Rockin' the Sky because Ike's Smash Brothers move.
No, that's a good guess. Yeah.
And you were playing it.
He launches up. He goes, just like that. Just like that, audience. He goes, it's an unnatural voice. And
is it Kirby?
No. Last question. Will Andrew finally get a point? It's been, oh man, like 15 episodes since I last got a point. I'm excited. Can he get a
It's the
point?
only other thing I think of is Skyward Sword.
No, it is
No.
not.
Okay.
Bringer of light to this dark world. Rid thy world of the filth that plagues the land, and stand I said victorious. Victorious
Mhm.
over your enemies as you rocket into the sky. The game was Super Mario Sunshine.
Okay.
Yep. Andrew is at 5. You guys have been getting these riddles too damn easy. I'm fucking kicking it up a notch. That is a horrendous way to describe
It's like
sunshine.
it's like when I see those memes that are like describe this film badly.
Yeah.
It's
Uh-huh.
like
It makes sense though. Like in
like
context, it's
Star
like
Wars. It was like man doesn't get promotion for job or something like that.
yeah. All right, Jake. I have a quick
Okay.
question for you before we jump into the very short news, which actually we're just talking about one story. What's the best fast food restaurant?
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be the best. What's your favorite?
Well, what are we talking about? Like fast food? Like we're thinking like McDonald's or something
Oh
nicer
man.
like Chipotle? Does that all count? Is
Oh
that all under
man.
the same umbrella?
So me and Susan have had many a discussion, and she'll listen to this episode probably in September because
Hmm.
she's that far behind, and she actually listens to every single minute of every episode just on her way to work though, which is not that long of a drive.
Hmm.
Um, we define it as it typically does have to have a drive-through. It can not have a drive-through.
Does pizza count?
See, that's always the one. Does
Hmm.
pizza count?
I
Pizza
would say Little
does.
Caesars definitely does.
Little Caesars, I would say yes.
Hmm.
The others, though, they get made to order. I think that's the thing too. Is like, do they get made to order? But fast food sometimes does as well get made to
Hmm.
order. Like
Like Five
Canes,
Guys.
like Five Guys.
Hmm.
Is Five Guys fast food though?
That would be my answer. Is Five Guys?
I don't think I would consider Five Guys fast food.
No.
They make it fast.
Hmm.
Now, is fast food? Does that mean that you don't sit down and a waiter comes to you? Is that what it is?
That's what I would typically call it because like Subway, what I would consider fast food, even
Okay.
though it's because you just go up there and
Yeah, yeah.
they make it right there.
All right. I like that
Hmm.
definition. So you'd say Five Guys then?
Yeah.
I'd say Five Guys too then. If we're
Mhm.
using those parameters, Five Guys is probably leagues above every other fast food place.
Oh yeah.
Leagues.
Because I'd say like even Canes, like I like or
Okay,
Slim
wait.
Chicken,
Canes.
like Canes and Slim Chickens. I don't typically see them as fast food, but they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Especially Canes. It has a
mhm.
drive-through and a whole
Well,
menu
yeah,
and everything.
but it's like a tier above standard fast food. Like if you were to go
Which,
get like chicken nuggets at McDonald's,
yeah,
that's nothing compared to like for Slim Chickens or Canes.
of course, yeah.
Hmm.
And now you got me thinking because I'm like, Canes,
Hmm.
pretty freaking good.
Oh yeah.
I guess
Good.
it's just a mood. If I'm in the mood for chicken, I'm going to Cane's. If I'm in the
Hmm.
mood for a burger, I'm going to Five Guys.
I just say overall quality, Five Guys.
Cane's has pretty good quality.
They do. But I say like as far as like the presentation and just like how good of an experience I always have there, it's always Five
And
Guys.
it's the little things because Five Guys, you
If
order
you want to
fries,
swim in French fries,
they're going to give you a lot of fries.
hmm
But if you notice, if you ever get Five Guys to go,
hmm
they always put the burger at the bottom. And of course, you got to get fries, but insane person to get fries. They dump fries
you gotta
on
dig your
top of
sandwich
it.
out.
They put the fries on top, but then, Jake,
Hmm
they put napkins on the top to keep the heat in.
hmm
And then they close your bag up. And it's the little things that puts it a step above the rest. Because a lot of people will just be like, oh, it's, just napkins, throw them in there. Five
hmm
Guys like, no, no, no. This is a science. And is the grease going to go through the bag? You bet your ass it's going to go.
Oh
But
yeah, I
that's
think it'll be
okay.
liquid by the time you get
That's
home.
how you know it's good.
Mm-hmm.
And all the
So that's
toppings
the
are
problem with
free.
that's the problem with getting chicken to go, is that it gets soggy very quick,
I mean,
especially like in
sometimes.
cans, like styrofoam. Like
Yeah.
if it's in a styrofoam container, that all that steam stays inside there and
I
it
can
condensates
never
on it.
I can never wait. I eat it right away.
Hmm.
Even if I'm driving, I'm like, I'm
That's
busting this shit out.
that's the one thing I think like Chick-fil-A's got figured out. They have the cardboard packaging or the little bags, and that keeps it like from getting soggy.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Chick-fil-A is good too.
hmm
Like I think it is a not a close third, but it's definitely third for
But they're
me.
not open on Sundays, and I always wanted on a Sunday.
That's how they get you though. I think that's
Hmm.
good marketing. Because if they were open on Sundays, I'd be like, it's Sunday, Chick-fil-A, meh. But every time it's Sunday now, I'm like, I really want Chick-fil-A. And then that next Monday, I'm like, here we go.
Nah, it's like, man, I really want Chick-fil-A. Oh, it's Sunday. I guess I'll get something else, and that's my that was my eating out for one of my eating outs this week. I don't know if I want to do that 2 nights in a row.
Yeah.
I haven't been to Chick-fil-A in like a month until like tonight, and I was like, oh shit, they close in an hour, and I haven't used my free chicken nugget. I guess I'll go get that.
All right, Jake.
Hmm.
Are you ready to jump into our two stories, which is really just one story? Now,
Okay.
a lot of news, I'm sure, has broken over the last 7 days. I'm going to be honest. Us over here at the Gaming Block, we're not as highly funded as everyone else. We have one amazing patron. Thank you so much. But th- we don't have anything else. So we have to work. We have real jobs. Not only that, we spent so much time recording E3, watching E3, reacting to E3, editing E3, and you know, some of us are students, me. Some of us write the show, also me. Uh, what I'm saying is,
Very
my
humble.
research when I was researching for this episode, I found some things, but I was running to the problem of like, okay, we've talked about a lot of this stuff on E3. Some
Hmm.
of it we haven't. Some of it slipped through the cracks. What do we talk about? What do we not talk about? Do we talk about the PC gaming show that we didn't talk about before? I went ahead and just said, there's a million other podcasts out there that if you want to hear that stuff, you can find it. If you want to know what was announced at the PC gaming show, there's articles. And if you actually care about it, you probably already read it or watched it, if we're being honest. So we only have one story to talk about today. And it's mainly because I found it very interesting. I didn't really know about this. I've been hearing about this game, but I didn't understand the depth this game went to.
And
Um,
see, I forgot to look this up.
that's okay. You're about to
So
you're about to go on a fucking trip.
yeah.
Are you ready to have your mind blown? Because when I heard about this, I got excited. I started squealing
Okay.
because I was like, "This
Oh,
is fucking awesome."
okay. I just saw something that looked interesting on that.
So we're gonna talk about this new PS5 exclusive called Abandoned,
Okay.
codenamed Abandoned. In recent weeks, there have been murmurs of this new IP with the codenamed quote Abandoned end quote. From what we know, the game is some type of horror title created by I think they're Dutch studio. But there's a conspiracy happening as we speak that makes Abandoned much more than a little known new IP. Prepare yourself to go down the rabbit hole. Back in April of 2021, that's this year, Sony revealed a PS5 exclusive game called Abandoned from developer Blue Box Game Studios. A trailer was released with the announcement, and it immediately gave off Silent Hill vibes. When asked,
Hmm.
the developer said, quote, "We have no association with Hideo Kojima, nor do we claim to have any association." They also go on to talk about how they have no association with Konami or Silent Hill IP, blah, 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 blah. The lead developer of Blue Box Games, Hassan Karaman, I don't want to butcher his name, but
Yeah, I think that's close enough.
has been interviewed remotely a few times by select people, but no other members of the studio are known. If you go on their LinkedIn page or whatever, it's a bunch of generic looking profile pictures, generic sounding descriptions, and no one's ever talked to them. What's more
Maybe they
interesting,
just like to keep to themselves.
it's true. What's more interesting is that no one seems to know who Carmen is. He's never made a game prior to this except for 2 mobile games. And side note about those mobile games, they were both released on the iOS and Android store only to be taken down very quickly. And they each only have around 8 downloads.
Okay.
Um and hasn't really been talked about until this year. More recently, Blue Box Games tweeted that the official title of the game can't be revealed yet, but the title of the game does start with an S and end with an L.
Hmm.
For clarification, after this, Blue Box Games did apologize, saying that they did not mean to, what do you say, presume that this is Silent Hill. And then they went back to the whole way of no association with Kojima or Konami or Silent Hill.
So someone jumped the gun.
So this is where we really jump down the rabbit hole. Blue Box Games tweeted on June 11th that, quote, Abandoned will have its own PS5 app showcasing an upcoming title related to trailers and gameplay reveal demos, end quote. Something that has never happened or been done for a PlayStation game except once. Back on PS4, players were able to download an exclusive app which led to the reveal and announcement of Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain. But the
Okay.
conspiracy theories pointing to Abandoned being Silent Hill and being made by Kojima don't stop there. Blue Box Game Studios is initialed as BB Games. BB could be a reference to Brit Babies, which would be referencing Death Stranding. Moreover, when you put Karaman into a translator and translate it from Turkish to Japanese, it literally translates to Hideo. When analyzing Karaman's PlayStation profile, there are a lot of weird things here too. First, he has a verified account, which you don't typically see for unknown people or developers, to be honest. Second, Kerman has 2,727 trophies. 2727 is a number which has ties to the Silent Hill Downpour trailer. It's called Downpour Trailer 2727.
Mhm.
Also, his 27th trophy is from Crisis, which is titled, quote, You Knew, Didn't You? End quote. There's more, so that's all I wrote for this. There's more, though. Um,
I
Oh,
like
my
that's
bad. My bad. He has 1,238. That's the Silent Hills commercial. My bad. That's how many trophies he has.
okay. I was about to
Um,
say, like, I feel like that's a lot of trophies to earn just
yeah,
for
yeah.
this there to be this esoteric about going down a rabbit
Um,
hole.
so Blue Box's tweets are usually made around 3 a.m. Netherlands time,
Hmm.
which would be around, you know, 8 p.m. Japan time. So either they're tweeting at 3 a.m. or they're tweeting at a normal time in Japan. The logo for Blue Box Games looks a lot like the PlayStation Studios logo. It even uses the same colors. Uh, some of these are a little less like, it's kind of like, one of the apps is called GoFit XL, and in it the description of the app says personal training, quote, PT, end quote, programs. Um, there's some more things about, like, in the trailer of Abandoned, or I don't think it actually says Abandoned. I can't remember what it was, but in the trailer it had like these words pop up, and there's a tree covering it, and they cover the letters PT. There's some
Okay.
things about, like, the Berserk. I think the Berserk is the manga it's called. It's like an artist or something. He was talking to Kojima a couple years ago about making a horror game, and there's like people are being like, "Oh, some of this concept art kind of looks like his drawings and stuff." Um, it was founded. Blue Box Games was founded in 2015, exactly 1 year after the release of PT, and that was around the time Kojima was leaving Konami.
Hmm.
There's a lot of things, and the big thing is that Kojima has done this before. He's done stuff like this. He made, back with that Metal Gear Phantom Pain reveal, he made a fake studio. They claimed that it wasn't him. This guy, Kareem or Karaman, has like, he follows like 8 people. One of them is Jeff Keighley. You know, Jeff Keighley has been a little. He's talked about like, oh yeah, Abandoned. We're gonna see more on that very soon. I'm excited about that. Um,
Jeff is the main character of this new game.
uh,
He's the new Norman Reedus.
we had that rumor that the what was it, the music director for Silent Hill said that there's a new game coming this year, and then he said later, oh no, there's not. um Konami has talked about a new game being made for Silent Hill being
Mhm.
revealed this summer. There's a lot of things pointing to like, okay, this might be it. But at the same time, there are things saying that this is all just some coincidences. It's not actually a thing. First off, the guy said that he's not Kojima many times. He said that this isn't Silent Hill many times. Um, Blue Box Game Studios could just be a thing, you know. It's a little weird that Sony would give them like this exclusive app or something to watch it, but I guess it's not unheard of. If they did
Mhm.
make an app, like if they made an app and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna post it to the PlayStation Store," why not? It's an
And it's
app.
only on PS5, that app.
Yeah, I think
That's
yeah.
interesting.
Um, there's some other things to be like, maybe this is just some guy with a studio that's making a horror game. I'll tell you right now, we can talk about all this. And I want to hear your thoughts about it, of course, and all that. But there's two scenarios out of this because we get a trailer Tuesday, which is 3 days from recording. Or I
Oh
guess that's
god.
when that app releases. So it's imminent.
What
And we're going to
time on
find out.
Tuesday?
I don't know. But we're
Okay.
going to find out then. And there's two scenarios. Either A, Sony somehow, this was all planned back when Kojima was still making Silent Hills with Konami. The breakup happened, things stopped. Kojima, made Death Stranding. He finished that, and then PlayStation and Konami got them to talk again, and he's back on it, and that's when things picked up because there is a time gap here. There is things were happening in 2015, and then the studio just kind of goes quiet, and then a year and a half later they start picking up again. So it's like the timeline does kind of fit. Maybe Sony repaired that relationship and like, hey, Kojima, you make Silent Hill in your studio, of course. A way
Mhm.
you do it your way, you do it your pace. But we're gonna
And
bring these two together. So either A, it's that, which is gonna be amazing. Like this is gonna be, if this is true, this is one of the biggest gaming moments of history.
oh yeah,
That
like
that we're getting PT back.
I need to know when this app goes live because I don't want to be spoiled for it like I was with like PT and stuff. Because
Yeah.
I honestly with PT I couldn't have even like there's no way of not being spoiled for it because I didn't have a PlayStation when that came out,
Yeah, uh-huh.
so I was stuck on Xbox. And Metal Gear Solid, of course, that just kind of happened.
Yeah.
Um, oh, that sound stopped.
But that's scenario A. Scenario B is that this is a real studio, Blue Box Game Studios. Abandoned isn't Silent Hill, it's something else.
Hmm.
They played a little too far into it, and they become the most hated game company on earth.
What if it's just like Secret Hill?
Like I think those are the only two scenarios. Either
Hmm.
this is Kojima and it's Silent Hill, or this game's going to get fucking sent to the underworld, and no one's gonna ever play it, and it's going to be the
Aw.
most disliked thing on earth. Because
Now,
honestly, because we're at this point, you've done too much. Like
mhm,
fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. There's too many coincidences, and
mhm,
like if you're not Kojima, you could easily just have an interview with your face, being like, "Hey, I'm not Kojima."
mhm. I feel like if this isn't what everyone thinks it's going to be a WandaVision situation where it's something that was made up to be much bigger than it actually was by just people that are want to enjoy this and people that were behind the scenes that didn't really properly you know sell it. And then by the end of it we're just going to be like, oh.
I don't even think it would be a WandaVision, man.
Hmm.
I can't even like. This is picking up a lot of steam like
Hmm.
right before it's happening. Like there's whole subreddits dedicated to this, people, this is the post E3 thing. And the good thing is that it's kind of amazing, Sony was gone from E3 entirely. We got a
Well,
couple announcements here and there.
like if this
If
is what this everyone thinks it is, this is be their like
If
win
this
for
is
E3.
if this is Silent Hill with Hideo Kojima and it's a PS5 exclusive, Sony wins E3.
Oh yeah.
Like that's the thing. This is like the biggest. This is bigger than the new Metroid. This is bigger than Starfield. This is the biggest gaming thing because that is
Well,
the game that
I
we
don't know
didn't
about
get.
bigger than Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread's a pretty big story all on its own right there.
It's pretty
Um,
amazing, but it's not.
I'd say they're pretty on par with each other if that's the
No,
case. Because Metroid Dread has been
no.
this 15-year mystery box.
But we got PT,
Yeah.
and it was the best horror thing that we had ever gotten.
It's
And then the
moved on.
whole, and it's not even just the game though,
What if it's
because
just PT again?
we're talking about that would be great. That would be
Yeah.
perfect. Because we're not even talking about just the game. We're talking about the marriage between Kojima and Konami coming back. And not only that,
hmm
we're talking about Konami coming back. Let's be
Now,
honest, they haven't been on their A game in 10, 15
I
years.
feel like this is honestly only possible because of COVID. Because Konami was all in on pachinko machines. That was all they cared about
No, no,
anymore.
no, no. I'll be fair.
hmm
Like in defense of Konami, they have been doing things before COVID.
hmm
They have been starting some
Like they
things.
did Contra Course, but that doesn't
Well, no,
count
no,
because
no,
that
no.
was
I'm not.
terrible.
I'm not even talking about that. I
hmm
think that before COVID, because there were rumors before that COVID started that like, hey, Konami's getting back into games. They're going around. They're
hmm
talking to people, and when you're making a game, it takes 3 to 5 years. If this game does come out this year or next year, that means that they've been working on it presumably since Death Stranding came out.
Okay.
Because
Or maybe it was Death Stranding that kickstarted that relationship. They're like,
there
oh
were
man, we could have
those
had this.
things after Death Stranding. People were having interviews with Kojima, being like, "What's your next thing?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't really know." And he was kind of teasing a horror thing. Like they're showing his desk, and people were like, "Oh, look, you can see like horror imagery." And he was talking about like, "I might want to like go make a scary game or
Well,
something."
wasn't he like they're the mascot for Kojima Studios now? Wasn't there supposed to be a game in the works for like that
I
character?
don't think so.
No, or something featuring that character in a game?
Not that I heard. Maybe like in Death Stranding or something. I don't
Because
know.
that was the whole thing. Like Kojima Studios' old logo was the foxhound symbol
Yeah,
from Metal
I
Gear.
think I don't think this new one, but maybe I didn't hear anything
hmm
about that. Um, but it's all very interesting.
hmm
And again, I think it's just those two scenarios. But yeah, go ahead. Like, I want to hear what you think about this. Like, do you think this is real? Do you think that it could?
Um,
Is it a big? Are we getting a fast one pulled on us by Kojima again? This is like it has
that's his
happened.
thing.
It has happened twice with because he did it with PT too.
hmm
So,
I didn't even know there was a second PT.
uh,
No, I honestly like I would love for this to be the case. I'm gonna keep my expectations low and say and not expect it to be a big Hideo Kojima conspiracy theory. But I know he loves that kind of shit, so I wouldn't be surprised if it does end up becoming that. I haven't been following this as closely as I guess some people have been, so this is the first time I've heard anything about Abandoned or any of this stuff until like right now.
hmm
So it'll be interesting. I'm gonna watch the trailer or whatever is out for it right now. After we get done doing this.
and I assume that if I had to guess, you're in the camp of you want it to be Silent Hill.
Oh yeah. I have like we need Silent Hill back,
Yeah, I think
especially with
everyone's.
the Resident Evil getting like Resident Evil 7 and 8's direction it went, especially 7's. I think Silent Hill would fit right in with
Mhm.
that kind of ecosystem.
Man,
It'd be a good competition for it too, because Resident Evil's kind of running unopposed right now.
yeah, definitely, and I can't understate like if Sony pulls this off,
hmm
man,
Plus, that's a huge reason to buy a PlayStation, especially if it's a PS5 exclusive and it's not one that's getting ported to
deported or
PS4.
whatever.
It's ported.
You've been deported to PlayStation 4.
Oh God! But
Rest in
yeah,
peace, Godfall,
oh,
and maybe
I
Demon
know.
Souls.
Like I know Godfall wasn't great, but yeah, I really hope the rumors with Demon Souls isn't true because PS5 needs a win. With Xbox
Well,
after like Game Pass has really made Xbox Series X a must buy after the presentation at E3.
this would put Sony back into the conversation because right now we have God of War, which looks great, but we have no
Mhm.
date, and Horizon, which looks great.
I think
Both
not
both
having an
those are
E3
coming to
presence
PS4.
really hurts them.
I
But
agree.
I feel like they may like it would be nice if they would come back like Nintendo did, where they're not technically a part of E3, but they have a presence during that time frame.
The treehouse is E3, so
Yeah.
it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, they're not, but they are. I
Yeah.
think so too. I think Sony will learn that they need E3 because even though they have all this inertia and all this speed, Microsoft's fucking pulling no punches. They're going all out.
I feel like they got very comfortable after last generation with where they stood in like the gaming sphere because they were on
Although,
top. They were top dog, and I would still
and
say
they
they
still
are
are.
pretty top
They're
dog.
still top
But
dog.
they could very easily lose that spot, just like Nintendo did in the '90s.
I do think though that if this is true and this is Kojima and Silent Hill and it's PlayStation exclusive, that
Mhm.
is a fucking counterpunch that is unthinkable to man.
Yeah,
Like
I
that
mean,
is the biggest thing.
I don't think Death Stranding got as much following as it should have.
Yeah, it was
Um,
definitely I don't even know if
I think
divisive. It's
like
just like you either really like it or you really
mhm.
don't.
It's big. That's a Kojima game, but I don't think it was as big because it wasn't Metal Gear or Silent Hill.
It was weird too.
Hmm.
It was very weird. Like, don't get me wrong, Silent Hill weird. Metal Gear, it's a little convoluted, but they're pretty straightforward games. Like, okay, Metal Gear, it's a espionage. You're being a spy. I get that. Silent Hill, scary. I get
Hmm.
that. I've played Death Stranding. I don't fucking understand what it is.
It's got Grimes doing the main
It's
theme.
weird. It's a very weird game.
I love it.
And I get
Like,
that it's symbolic and all
mhm,
that, and I understand but like the second, even seeing the trailers, I understand why it only sold a couple million copies because it's like
mhm.
the normal players look at this like
Listen,
it's a fucking baby and he's like
it
a
had the
shadow
best.
man, and
It had the best trailer ever at Summer Games Fest.
it's true. And that could have been a hint too because that
Mhm.
was that
That's
was
Metal Gear.
Metal Gear,
Yeah.
like like it was Metal Gear.
What if it starts with an S, ends with an L? It's Silent Metal. It's a Metal Gear Silent Hill crossover.
Maybe,
That'd be cool.
maybe. But I thought this was definitely the biggest news post E3. And some people are like, "Oh, Hassan Karman has HK as his initials, Hideo Kojima." Oh my gosh, it's like, okay,
Oh,
calm down. I mean, maybe, but calm down.
you never
And
know.
he has like a YouTube channel called 2727. Silent Hills was canceled on April 27th. Just things like that. It's like, I think people. It's that one thing in your minds where you start seeing connections that aren't
Hmm.
there.
You're like Charlie in It's Always Sunny with a little board.
Yeah. Um. So I did want to read this last one though because I was saying about the Berserk artist. What it says is that Sneaky Warrior played a game that isn't available on the PS Store that is using Siren Head as an image.
Oh.
Junji Ito reacted to Siren Head a few months ago and implied about working with Kojima. So I want to look up Junji
I
Ito.
really hope Siren Head is not
I
the
don't think
main
so.
antagonist in this game.
No, no, no. That was a weird though. It's called like Red Blood or something. It's just a game on his PlayStation profile that's never been released. Like it's not real. It doesn't exist. It's like how is this
That's
on here?
interesting.
Um but yeah, he worked on what did he work he's worked on a lot of things. Uh there was one that was like big for him. I don't know. I don't know. He's like a famous horror manga artist though, and he
Okay.
was like talking with Kojima. He mentioned like working with him like a year ago or something. So I don't know, but that's about it for this story. We're gonna find out
That's
Tuesday.
it's very interesting. I'm gonna definitely be disconnected that day,
Hmm.
and wait till I get off work
Definitely, definitely. Me
because I
too.
because I want that PT moment I didn't get when PT came out, where you saw Norman Reedus at the end with the Silent Hill logo.
Uh huh. So cool. Uh, but I think I mean, do you have anything else to say about this story?
Um, I mean, props to whoever has that PlayStation profile and went through all the work to get those trophies to that exact number. And
If this is Kojima, because the thing is, people are starting to see the holes in it to be like, oh, it's not Kojima.
Mhm.
I feel like personally that's the perfect alibi because you don't want to make it overly obvious, you know?
Yeah, like
But
he's
then
good
you,
at this shit.
but
He's
then
been around the block.
But then you throw something overly obvious, like, I don't know, the name fucking translating to your name.
Yeah,
Pretty fucking obvious. But then you throw in some stuff to be like, oh, wait, actually, no, it's not obvious. And, there's like some people, there's like this one IGN writer who's like, I've talked to the guy and, I have some things to say that I'll tell you later. You don't think if Kojima was like, hey, writer dude, I need you to do something for me. You don't think he'd be like, okay, you
listen,
know?
that same thing happened. Metroid Dread. One IGN guy saw Metroid Dread 15 years ago behind closed doors, and then we didn't see it again until like this week.
I'm I,
So,
I'm definitely on the side of a believer though. I
oh
am a
yeah, oh
believer.
yeah. I don't like. I don't want to get too excited for this.
I'm not
Um,
excited for the game per se. I think
mhm,
the game or not, if it's out, awesome. Like it's cool to. We live in an era where we see canceled games being revived. We've seen it
mhm.
many times actually now. Metroid Dread, prime example. Star Fox 2, Silent Hill could be that game. Yeah, we've seen it over and over. Like these older games, like hey, let's bring them up now. Like why
I,
not
I
go
had
back
a
to the
dream
well?
after the Nintendo conference. I had a dream that night that they announced a Mother 3 remastered for like a worldwide release.
I
I was like,
believe that
whoa,
I believe we'll get Pikmin 4 one day.
maybe.
One day.
I can
But
honestly.
I'm excited about just the atmosphere. I love mysterious shit.
Mhm. I like
And
when this kind of stuff
yeah,
happens on the internet.
it's fun. It's
Hmm.
fun. Anyways, we're going to move on to our second story, and that is our E3 predictions results. If
Woo!
you've listened this far into the podcast, that means you probably care about our podcast. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. Tell your friends, please. Tell anyone, please, please, uh, please.
We need money, like bad.
We're poor. And also, we love doing this, and we want as many people as possible to keep hearing it.
Yeah, yeah. That's why.
Anyways, we made our E3 predictions before E3, and then we watched all of E3. At least I watched every single show to make sure, and I scoured through every single article talking about E3. And we have our prediction results. And Jake, there's a decisive winner and a decisive loser, I think.
I think you and I tied, didn't we?
Yeah, we tied actually.
Mhm.
So, tied for last place. Let's start with me.
Okay.
My seven predictions. My first prediction was Nintendo reveals Metroid Prime 4, but it's renamed. Doesn't have 4 in it anymore. Made by Retro. That did not happen. We did get mention of Metroid Prime,
Hmm.
but we didn't hear anything. They called it Metroid
Specifically
Prime
for.
4.
Hmm.
Yep. Didn't
I bet you
happen.
it'll have a subtitle
Probably.
because all of them had subtitles except for the first one.
My second prediction was that we will see Elden Ring at the Bandai Namco conference. No release date. We did not see it at the Bandai Namco conference, and we did get a release date.
Yep.
My third one, which I got correct, I got a point for this. Xbox will show off Starfield. It's exclusive. 2022 release date. That all
Nailed it.
happened. Nailed it.
11/11.
My fourth one, Star Citizen will be shown off at the PC Game Show. I don't know. I don't know what I was smoking.
Mhm.
Number 6, a new Smash character will be revealed, and it's Master Chief. I get half a point. We did get a new reveal. It was not Master Chief yet. It's gonna happen. And number 7, 2K reveals a new Bioshock game. It's open world. How was I supposed to know that 2K would just have a fucking Zoom conference where they talk about being a fucking woman in video games for an hour? How was I ever supposed to guess? Dude, I don't know. Listen. Listen. Being a feminist is cool. Not being a fucking Karen feminist, obviously. You know, those I'll be straight up with that. Not my cup of tea. The ones that are all in your face about it. But I'm
Mhm.
all about equal rights, obviously. But like, not only that, but I think it's awesome when I see like professional gamers that are women, or even like Twitch streamers that are women that women that are Twitch streamers get a lot of hate. I don't really ever understand that. I think it's because
Mhm.
people are jealous because like, oh, you only do it because you look good or whatever. I'm like, I watched quite a few of them, and I mean, they're entertaining because they play games. It's like I don't really care about what they look like, and I
Mhm.
think it's awesome that more women and they're talking about the gay community getting into gaming and stuff. I'm like, this is really cool that we're getting all these different groups into video games, but I also think that it's very weird to have an E3 conference where presumably you're going to show games. You didn't say this was going to be like a 2K presents inclusion in video games. You didn't say that. So people are showing up expecting BioShock, Grand Theft Auto, something, and instead we got a 40-minute lecture on fucking all these different things in video games. By far, the worst E3 conference I've ever witnessed in my life.
I thought Capcom was bad.
Capcom at least showed games.
Yeah, kind
They
of.
didn't talk. I don't even think they talked about a game. That's how bad it was. It was the worst thing I've ever seen at E3. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Jake, your predictions. Number 1, Metroid will be mentioned at Nintendo's conference. It was mentioned at least
In a
once.
big way.
Number
we
2,
saw her die to Kazuya, and then we got a little bit of a mention of Metroid Prime 4, which was never coming out. And then we got Dread, which will probably take the same amount of development time that Dread took for Metroid Prime 4 to come out.
probably. Number 2, we will see Spider-Man 2 around E3.
No.
That didn't happen though. No. Number 3, Halo is coming out next year. They'll put Halo 5 in the Master Chief Collection. I think you're kind of right, but they said Halo's coming out this year, so we have to believe them.
Yeah, I will say, after seeing what they showed us, I am confident we'll get the multiplayer this year.
They did say they were adamant that the multiplayer and single player will launch together. I think they're lying. I think the multiplayer will launch and the single player will be next year.
I think it'll be I'm assuming it's going to come out in November because that's usually around the time Halo comes out. It's kind of like anywhere between
20th anniversary
in the fall.
Be perfect.
And I think that's what they really want to aim for too, is that anniversary spot. Seeing as how much they're like going back to old art and design and music for Halo for this. But we were supposed to get it last year too.
It's true.
So he's been on the box for the Xbox for a year and he's not on it.
He's just chilling.
So yeah, he's just hanging out. I've had this statue that it was a pre-order bonus for the game for months now.
And they're good to they're just forgetting about Halo 5. That game doesn't exist.
Yeah. I honestly thought that would be their like what I was imagining was that they're gonna be like, we're sorry, Halo's not coming out this year.
Of course.
But here's Halo 5 in the Master Chief Collection. Now you can have your whole Halo story in one spot.
Which I understand why they didn't do that though. Because it's already on Game Pass, it's already there. It's like it's kind of redundant at that point,
I will say something they did do recently that no one talked about this at all was fix Halo 1 in the Master Chief Collection.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
They fixed all of the bad Gearbox port issues. So it's just like if it's not exactly like it, it's as close as you're getting to the original Xbox experience at the moment, which is really cool.
So that's nice that they're going back and they're fixing things. But you still don't get a point. Sorry.
No, I know. It's close though. I'll get a retroactive point a year from now.
Number 4, we will get an announcement of a Gears of War game. Thank God you got that wrong.
Yeah.
It was better without it. Number 5, we will get Final Fantasy 16 this year. Zero mention of Final Fantasy 7 Remake 2. On a technicality, you get half a point. We did not hear about Final Fantasy 7 Remake 2.
But we also didn't hear anything about Final Fantasy
16.
Which, Guardians of the Galaxy took up that whole slot.
Number 6, Resident Evil 4 Remake gets revealed. No, it doesn't.
No.
And then number 7, the Switch Pro will be announced during the Nintendo Direct. Breath of the Wild 2 will launch day and date with it. Nope.
No. Which I wish I would have said 2022 on that because I would have gotten a half point. But that's what I was kind of inferring with that, but I didn't.
Yeah. The Switch Pro thing. I feel stupid because I was calling bullshit on it for so long. I was like, it's not real. It's going to be the next console. The Switch Pro isn't real. And then I admit it. I got convinced. All the leaks and stuff and the reporting, I was like, fuck, I guess this thing's real. And you know what? I'm going to say right now, Andrew was right. I was fucking right. I told you all. I fucking told all of you. The Switch Pro is not real and it's not happening. It's not.
Listen. I was in the same camp as you for the longest time because I know, like Kevin, he was convinced it was coming out. Like he would not stop talking about it and like how he wanted to wait until it came out to get a Switch. And I'm just like, it's not real. Like it's
It's
not
not
a thing they're
real.
doing. Nintendo doesn't do that. But then, like you, I started seeing all the stuff, and everyone started talking about it, and it was like, all right, well, maybe this is real, you know? If not a Switch Pro, it's something new that's Switch related, or some sort of console you know, redo. I don't know. I mean, I still think we're gonna get something hardware wise from Nintendo next year. If
I
it's a
think so
Switch,
too. I think it's gonna be
I
March.
think it would be smart for them to let it be backwards compatible with Switch.
Yeah, I think it will be. I think it'll be a very Switch S, kind of like
I
from Wii to Wii U. You
I
know,
would say it's probably more like from like DS to DSi or
I hope not.
3DS to new
I
3DS.
hope not, because that is basically just a pro version of it. I don't want
Hmm.
that. I want the Wii to Wii U.
Hmm.
All your Wii games play on this. It's kind of like a Wii, but now you got a tablet. Now
And then
I'm not saying that
they
I
can
want a
bundle in
tablet,
Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD as an apology.
but it would be cool. People talk about this. Why can't? What if you pulled out the Switch, but the dock had like computing power to where there's still a screen
Hmm.
on there, and you start getting DS games because you have two screen.
That was the best thing about the Wii U is you could do DS
Expand it
games on
more.
that.
You know,
Hmm.
like that's what I want. Make the Joy Cons not pieces of shit. It
Because that was the coolest thing about the Wii U is that how little latency there was between the gamepad and
was
the
amazing.
screen.
Yeah, it works.
And I would love to have that kind of connectivity. Like just do it backwards.
Yep.
You know, this is
Hmm.
the same idea but backwards. Instead of having your handheld is the main computing system versus the controller. It can work both ways.
Because I don't really understand why people want a pro version. Like I don't
Hmm.
get that. Like what? You just want the same console, but now it has a
I think
prettier screen and
I
better.
think that and they want games to look and run better on the Switch.
But
Like I will say like Metroid Dread. It would definitely love to see that game look a bit prettier, but I did
of
watch the
course,
footage outside of the streaming, and it does look really well given the restrictions on the handheld.
yeah,
I think they're doing the best they can with a lot of these games, like Breath of the Wild. I don't think it would look any different on a different console.
I
That's
don't
their
think so
art
either.
style.
Hmm.
Mario Odyssey, same thing.
It
They
would
picked
run
an art
better,
style. Yeah, it would run better, but I think the visuals that go for a lot of Nintendo games, they know what their parameters are and they make it look
definitely.
good around that. Metroid has always been their one that's been more like realistic, and it's been able to kind of get away with that because it's only been on like pixel based handhelds as far as the 2D ones go, and it's been first person and their other like 3D games,
Hmm.
so it works in that. But this will be the first side scrolling one, well, I guess, other than Samus Returns, the remake.
Yeah,
That's it would benefit from a little bit of polish as far as
of
visuals go. I
course,
think.
yeah. But we live in an era where Nintendo, they do their own thing. I get it, but they do pay attention to what their competitors are doing. They are looking at
Hmm.
what Sony and Xbox are doing, and they must see that the whole narrative in the last 8 months is that PS5 patch, Series X patch, PS5 patch, Series X patch, and it's not just for new games. It's Jedi Fallen Order, E3. Hey, guess what? Here's the PS5 and Xbox Series X patch.
Hmm.
This game, it ran pretty well on the old console, but it did have problems. Now you're gonna have zero problems.
And
They've got
Nintendo's
that
been
patch
trying to get better games on their system using the cloud based games, but I
because
feel like they would like to get away from that.
of course, yeah. I mean, let's be honest. The Switch has a terrible Wi-Fi antenna in it. You got
Hmm.
to play docked with an Ethernet cord, and even then, it's not the best.
Hmm.
But when people talk about like a Switch Pro, surely they have to realize that these games need to be patched for it too. Like you're not going to be able to take a game that was made for the Switch, plop it in a Switch Pro, and it's just going to run flawlessly. That's not how it
No.
works. It's about optimization. So if you're already patching these games for a Pro version, you might as well make a new console that's backwards compatible. Patch those games, give them like just have a little Pro on it. Now
Hmm.
you're playing
I
Breath of the
mean,
Wild Pro, and it
there was
looks
something
prettier.
something that I don't know if you knew, but a lot of late life Game Boy Color games had Game Boy Advance enhancements if you played them in a Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, so it's not
Um,
unheard of for them.
so
Like they've
Nintendo's
done
done
this
it
before.
before. Um, which it's super neat. I didn't know that was a thing until recently. Um, like they would have better color palettes, I guess, to match the Game Boy Advance's like screen.
I just know, and I promise we'll get into to Rogers E3 predictions. I promise, but I want to talk about this
Hmm.
because when the new 3DS released, it didn't make a difference. The only difference was that it had that extra
Little nub, the C
little
stick
nub
nub,
on it.
hmm
That
which
was
was
the
that was great.
only difference. The games didn't really look
Well, you
better.
could play
They
Super
didn't
Nintendo games
play
though.
better. You had like 10 exclusives for it.
Hmm.
And then there was the outlier games like Hyrule Warriors that ran honestly should have never been put on the 3DS to begin with, but it did
It was a
run on the new
novelty.
3DS.
I
But
think it was
on
just a
the
novelty.
but on base 3DS it ran like shit. It was a
Yeah,
complete waste of money if you bought that and you only had a normal 3DS.
which was smart when they did Hyrule or the Fire Emblem Warriors. They made it new 3DS only,
Yeah, because
which
it
is so
worked.
weird. That was on the new 3DS and the Switch. That was a
But like
weird cross platform thing.
But my point is like they released this more powerful handheld, but since it's still technically a 3DS, they have to make games to the lowest common denominator,
Mm,
and that holds every future game back. If they make the next Switch just a Switch Pro, it's not a
mm,
new console. That means in 2 years from now, when they're making Switch games, and this is a Switch Pro, not a new Switch, that means they're going to still have to be making games to run on the original Switch that came out 5 years ago now, 4 years ago. What was it? 2017, right?
yes, this is the fourth year.
So if the Pro comes out next year, let's say, and it's not a new console, it's just Pro version, you would think that's just a half thing, right? That means the
Hmm.
next console's not coming out for another 4 years. So we're talking like what, 2024? They're still making original Switch games, and it's the problem right now that we're seeing with PlayStation.
Hmm.
With the
Which
PS5, they
we had
keep
the
porting
same
it.
issue with the last generation as well, going from the 360, PS3, the PS4, and Xbox One. Granted, those games didn't work on each other like the new generation does, but they were making both like they were still making both game like the games on both
I
systems.
think that I hear you with that
Hmm.
example. I think that one's a little different because when they're
Hmm.
doing that, they typically had different teams making that different version.
But it still was a lot of money and time that could have went to making a better game for
Of
the
course,
current
yeah.
hardware.
Of course, yeah.
Um,
You can always do that. But when you have a pro version, kind of like with the PS4 Pro, we did get those, this PS4 Pro enhanced. It'll run a
mhm.
little bit better, but
You
it's
can
like,
play in 4K. Crash.
yeah. That was the Xbox One.
That was
Um
Crash.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Remember I said
Ew.
4K?
Yeah, yeah, I remember now. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
But my point is like when you release a pro version, and maybe that's why people are saying they want a pro just because of the PS4 Pro,
Hmm.
like and the Xbox One X.
I
But
think it's just expected now.
it's like I don't know. I want something
Ooh,
new.
we get the Switch color.
Because what do they release the pro version of the Switch and then release a new console the year after that?
Well,
Like
I'm
how far
wondering,
back do they go, or how long
does
do they wait?
Nintendo continue to do this hybrid home console handheld thing, or do they go back to what they used to do and have a separate handheld and console?
I think for Nintendo to be truly successful, because I'm just being completely honest. The
Hmm.
Switch is a great idea, but it's a gimmick, and the things that hold it back are obvious.
Hmm.
It's not powerful enough, and it'll never be powerful enough because it's a handheld.
Yeah.
I think for Nintendo to be truly successful in the console market, it needs third-party support. You can't keep it hasn't had third-party support since honestly SNES. GameCube started getting more of it again
Hmm.
because they finally went to
And the Wii
discs.
had a ton of the Wii and DS had a ton of it.
The Wii had third party support, but it didn't have the right third party
Like we
support.
had Call of Duty on there.
It had
That's
shovelware on
yeah.
there.
Hmm.
It's
But
really been since GameCube that it had true like Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 4. You know what I mean? Like it was
mhm,
getting third party games on there. That was the last time,
yeah.
and that was like 15 years ago. In the Switch,
Hell,
people
it used to
tried
be
to
the home
do
of
it.
Final Fantasy.
Yeah, but then they decided to be on cartridges, and which I think that worked out for the best because
Hmm.
we got a lot of great Final Fantasy games from that. But like they need to. people probably don't want to hear this, but I really think Nintendo needs to be like, okay, we're releasing a home console, and it's going to be powerful. It's going to
Because
be $500, and the Switch is our new handheld,
the
and you
thing
can
is,
still dock it, and you can still play
mhm,
it on the TV, but we're going to make the home console so Zelda actually runs well and it
I
actually
think
looks good, and
it would
you
be
can play
cool.
Call of Duty on Nintendo. Like you can do these things.
I think it'd be so cool if they came out with, a super, Nintendo can do it. They come out with, they have the money, they have the resources to make a powerful box. That's never been their goal. They've just usually been, their stats in the console are good enough to keep up. Even in the Super Nintendo, they just kind of happened to end up having the most powerful console that generation. Um,
Yeah,
but they can do it, and I think they need to, or else they need to go, third party. But
they'll never do that. They
they'll
have too
never
much
do
money.
that. They have enough money to continue making everything on their own terms. But I think it would be great is if they brought back connectivity, kind of like how the GameCube had connectivity to the Game Boy Advance using that cable. If the Switch was your second screen, or you could have that kind of connectivity between it and this home beast.
Yeah,
Um, which even the Wii U and the 3DS had very limited kind of
you could
communications that
you could
way.
like for Smash Brothers use a 3DS as an controller
Hmm.
and be playing it
And
on there
if
like
you
that.
played, I like Hyrule Warriors was an example. Like if you connected that to the home console version, you got the handheld exclusive characters on
Yeah,
the home console version.
so there is slight precedent for this. It's not
Hmm.
unheard of. This isn't like pie in the sky. People be like, "What? This is insane." It's like never
Hmm.
happened. Like it's kind of happened before.
Yeah, like I think the best example Nintendo's ever used this with is like with Four Swords Adventure on the GameCube,
Mm-hmm.
because every controller was a Game Boy Advance and everyone
Yep.
had their own screen, and you could follow the whole action on TV, or you could, you played it on your own on the
Yeah, and you'd
product
go in
screen.
things on the TV, and then it'd be on your handheld for the little
Hmm.
puzzles and stuff. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, it was great.
the GameCube had so many cool ideas like that.
And I do think I see. I don't know what Nintendo we're dealing with because they
Hmm.
went through this transitional period, and I think it's very obvious, especially from this last E3, because they announced a lot of big things this last E3,
Hmm.
and this is nothing like we've seen since the launch of the Switch, really. And I think it's because we had old Nintendo, which was planning for the Switch. Their leadership kind of crumbled. Some
Yeah,
things were,
it's. I mean, Awada
natural.
died.
Some things, people left as well. It was kind of in shambles. I think that's why I don't know. We might hear a new console reveal this fall to launching in spring. It's possible. I wouldn't be
Hmm.
surprised, though, especially with COVID, that it didn't happen. But we're starting to see now games after that leadership change be like, okay, this is what we want to do. We want to do Metroid
Hmm.
Dread. We want to do another Mario Party. We want to do Breath of the Wild 2, but make it bigger, Like that's the new leadership being like, we want to do these things now. It took them 2 to 3 years to make.
Will
Now we're
we get F-Zero? No, but
starting.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, it would be cool. And maybe we do. Who knows?
Hmm.
And I think it would be cool also if like Nintendo doubled down on some of its like give us arms too.
Hmm.
Don't give up on these new IP and
You know,
just keep going back to the well and the old ones, or give us new
like
IP.
Kid Icarus, like it's had three games, and the 3DS game was really cool, but the 3DS was very difficult to control that game on. But it
Even
would be
then,
cool to see another entry in the Kid Icarus Uprising like series.
it
Like
would be
it was cool.
cool, but even then, I still don't even think they need to do that.
Hmm.
I'll commend Sony on doing that. They let old IP die,
Yeah,
and sometimes it's sad, but other times it's like
we got Sir Daniel back.
we don't need to keep bringing, yeah,
Hmm.
fucking whatever that game's called,
I
medieval
think,
back
like, yeah,
and stuff.
Nintendo has a big enough like backlog of characters that they've just kind of forgotten about. It'd be like they I don't know, like Star Tropics. That'd be a cool one to like bring back.
I would argue
Just
though that at this point, Sony and Nintendo are starting to get pretty even with how much backlog they got.
mhm.
They both got a very big
The problem
backlog.
with Sony is a lot of theirs were with other companies. Now they're getting their own, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, some of them they own the IP, but another company
Like it
made
was
it.
PS1 era, and like for a good chunk of PS2, they didn't really have their own presence on there. It was a lot of like Naughty Dog was a big one, but they weren't Sony's studio per se at the time.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like a lot of their big hitters, like Tomb Raider, Crash, Spyro. Like none of those are still exclusive to that platform.
yeah,
Which
yeah.
Crash should have been their Mario. Like Crash should have been PlayStation's mascot for like a long
Well, it
time.
was, it
Yeah,
was. But
but then like
then,
one generation later, it's on every platform.
and I think that worked out best though, because
Hmm.
you see one company that won't let go of the past,
Hmm.
and then you see the one company embracing the future. And as successful as Switch is, PS5 is bigger.
Hmm.
PS4 is bigger. You
But
know,
there is a reason Nintendo is still leading in sales of consoles.
I think it's the gimmick.
Yeah,
That's it. I don't think it's because of their decisions on games. I don't think it is their games
I
anymore because
think
I
it
don't think
also.
they have the best games. I think Sony does.
I
I
think it
think it's
helps that
because
Nintendo is seen as kid friendly as well, so parents are like,
I
"Oh,
don't.
I
I don't
could
think
buy all my
so.
kids a Switch Lite."
I don't think
They,
so. I think it's COVID.
yeah,
I think COVID stranded a lot of people, and it hit at the right moment. And
Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing, a lot of people were depressed. So it's like, oh, I'll buy Animal Crossing. And honestly, I don't know what Black Wizard like. Black Wizard. I don't know what that means. I don't know what kind of.
Be like Black Magic.
I was thinking of Final Fantasy again, Black Mage. I don't know what wizardry Nintendo's doing, but Sony and Xbox both have been struggling with this chip shortage. And
Hmm.
like you worked in retail, you noticed PS4s
Yeah.
you couldn't find them.
Oh yeah. Same with
It's
like Xbox. Like
it's
everything just was
not
gone.
like they all have the same amount of consoles and Switch is
Hmm.
just selling more.
And the
They're
weird thing
all
is,
selling out.
Switch was selling out for a long time too, but that was because they switched manufacturing from China to it was Taiwan
Or
to get around
Vietnam. I think
the
it's
Vietnam,
Vietnam.
yeah, Vietnam to get around because yeah, Taiwan's still it's complicated. But yeah, it was to get around President Trump's like import tariffs.
Hmm.
So they did all that, and that caused a delay in their production conveniently around the same time COVID hit. So they
Yeah.
had the delay for production, plus they had the delay from workers not being able to work.
And
But
we
now
just
they're
talked
back
about
in.
this. We just talked about this too.
Hmm.
The Switch is big in Japan. It
Yeah.
sold 20 million units in Japan.
Hmm.
Japan has been going less to the home market. It's going bigger to the mobile market.
Well, no, that's been that way since the early 2000s. Like they like cell phones were like a
Well,
huge boom there, and then the
no,
Game
I
Boy was
know.
always big there. They love things that they can take with them because they are a society that is always on the move or going somewhere.
Well, yeah, and they don't have a.
Mhm.
I mean, they don't have space for the PS5.
Yeah,
They
I
don't-
mean that would take up their whole apartment.
yeah, literally. So it's like
Hmm.
get a Switch Lite instead. But I really
Yeah.
believe that like they need they're the what I'm trying to say is that I think that Nintendo right now is still just hanging on to gimmicks,
Hmm.
and they need to make a real console. Because yes, the Switch is successful, guys. The Wii U was not that long ago,
Hmm.
and we can even go back to the
Listen,
Wii. And
I have a soft spot for the Wii U. Okay.
some people could consider the Wii a failure because yes, the Wii sold a shitload of units, but it didn't sell a lot of software. Skyward Sword was a Zelda game that had over 100 million Wii's, and it sold like 2 million copies. No one bought anything on Wii. A
Yeah,
lot of people got Wii
a lot of
Sports
people.
Resorts, Wii Play, and that was it.
Mhm.
Nothing else. And then GameCube was kind of a hit, but it really wasn't. N64 was kind of a hit, but not
I
really.
I feel like the Wii was also a huge detriment to the industry as a whole as far as motion controls are concerned because it left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth over how motion controls can be used in games because they're like, "Ooh, that's casual. Like that I don't want to be waggling my arm all over the place." But then
Hmm.
you have stuff like I think Doom on PC. It has gyro aiming. If you've got
Gyro aiming's great.
which is beautiful, but people hate that any mention of gyro, and they won't put it in consoles that have that capability. Like Doom on the PS4, you can't use gyro aiming if you want to. You can
Yeah,
on the PC. It's capable of doing it on both systems, but you can't do it
yeah,
because the industry's afraid of embracing motion controls because of the Wii.
yeah.
And Nintendo, they still do it. Like you have the gyro aiming for Zelda and Breath of the Wild, Splatoon. I know anyone who plays Splatoon, they love the gyro aiming in that game. It's the only way to really play it.
They
It's
still
it's
do it,
the
but I'll be
biggest
honest.
it's the biggest difference between bridging that gap between mouse and keyboard control and controller control.
I'll be honest though, every time I see a game that's like motion controls, I always roll my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always like, even if it works, I'm just like, I don't want to fucking waggle.
But that's
I
the
don't
thing,
want to do it.
because the Wii, I think, had a requirement to use the motion control in some way,
Yep.
and a lot of companies got around with that by just like in
Replacing
Resident
a
Evil 4
button.
on the Wii, you shake it instead of tapping a button to
Yeah,
get
you
away
just
from the
replace a
board.
button. Yep, that's all they
Yeah,
did.
but it can be used in so many better ways, and we've seen
I
that in
agree.
recent years. PC has really embraced it, and the Nintendo has embraced it, but Xbox and PlayStation has not.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
in there. It's part of Xbox doesn't even
well,
have gyro in their controller.
they kind of
Mhm.
Xbox. I mean, they went different routes.
Yeah.
Xbox went the Connect route,
Oh yeah.
which kind of
Oh yeah.
failed,
I remember that.
and
That was
then
listen. The Connect 2 is a
PlayStation.
cool idea. It didn't work out, but it's a cool idea.
PlayStation also they had the 6-axis, which
Mm-hmm.
was that gyro, and there are games on PS3 where it does work, and they went a little too far in some like Heavy Rain. They're a little
Layer.
overused with like the turning and kind of doing all the different motions and stuff.
It was Layer that Factor 5 did, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was one that game was completely
that game
destroyed
was
because of
broken
that.
because of it, and they had
Mm-hmm.
to like re-release it. But by
And
the
that was the
time
thing.
they
And Factor 5 knew that, and they were like, "Listen, we need to make this an option, or else
and they're like
people are gonna."
no,
And they're like, "Nope, we want to sell the 6-axis."
and by the time that they patched it in, no one cared. They're
Yeah.
like, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
Layer sucks.
And then
Like,
Factor 5 we never saw them again because of Superman, but that's a different story.
but yeah, so anyways, yeah, there's no Switch Pro. You get 0 points.
Mm-hmm.
So we both ended with 1.5 point, and then fucking Roger, who only predicted 6 out of 7. He didn't give me a 7th one. His predictions were as follows. Number 1, see Breath of the Wild 2 at Nintendo's conference. We did see it. We got a trailer for it. 1 point. Number 2, Fable will be shown. No Fable. Doesn't count. Which I was a little disappointed about, but
Mm-hmm.
we'll see
I'm
it next
assuming
year.
they just started development last year
No,
or
they did.
something. Or
They
they
did.
even hadn't even started development on it. They just announced they were going to do it.
We're gonna have a conversation about Xbox because I think they are making a mistake, but we'll save that for later. Number 3, we will see Elden Ring. I went ahead and gave him a point, even though it's technically at the Summer Games Fest. I would argue that was as much as part of E3 as Nintendo's Direct is.
Mm-hmm.
So we
It was
did
the
see
day
Elden
before.
Ring. I gave him the point. Number 4, we will see Final Fantasy 16. Nope. Number 5, Far Cry 6 demo. No, but fucking they showed us enough footage for it to be a demo. Couldn't get away from that fucking game. And then number 6, Game Pass gets a bunch of indie games. I believe they did talk about indie games coming to Game Pass. I think they showed like Hello Neighbor 2 and some other games which are indie. Not to mention the whole conference was basically everything's coming to Game Pass. And there were
Yeah.
some, actually there were some, I know that like the Octopath Traveler looking type game, that is an indie game coming to Game Pass. So it is getting indie games. So it ended with 3 points. And he won. Roger wins the first inaugural Gaming Block Podcast E3 predictions, and he gets a pizza party whenever we see him.
Now we're just gonna mail it to him. We're do a mobile order on Pizza Hut and have it delivered to his door without telling him. Put
So
a candle. We'll request to put a candle in it.
Just a singular candle.
Yeah.
All right, Jake. I wanted to
Yeah.
do one more thing.
Okay.
Before we get into the end of the show, because there's no big releases for the previous week. There were some games that released, but honestly, we could talk about these little games that came out on Steam. There were no big games. It was E3 week. There's usually not any big games. It makes sense. We are getting more
No
games.
one wants to get lost in it.
Yeah, exactly. And the games that I saw, I was like, I've never heard of any of these.
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to do is actually I lied. I'm going to say these quick things. Some of them are interesting. And then we'll do our final segment where we talk about the games we were most excited to see at E3. Or the best looking games. Our top 5 games from E3. There we go.
There you go. That's a good title.
So, your quick news announcements goes as follows. Castlevania Advance Collection has been rated in Australia. More Konami. Alan Wake Remastered was found in a database on the Epic Game Store, along with Final Fantasy VII Remake. So it looks like those games are bound for the Epic Game Store. Xbox Design Labs is back. So if you want to get a cool custom controller like I did, now that we have video, I can show. I put some thumbstick covers, but see, it has my name and I picked the colors and all of it. I really like this controller. And honestly, I want to make another one. So
Hmm.
I might be going there. It's a really cool thing.
I wish PlayStation would do something like that. I
I
love
wish
those new
me
controllers
too.
they announced, but like I don't want to spend $80 on them unless I did a custom design for it.
I think I spent like 90 on that one, but it's like it's
Hmm.
mine, you know? So
Yeah.
I like it. Plague Tale Innocence is getting a next gen upgrade on July 6th, and also there's a leak that it's going to be the PS Plus game for next month.
Okay.
David Polfelt. Now you might not have heard of this guy, but he's the head of Ubisoft Massive.
And he's Hideo Kojima.
No, but Ubisoft Massive, as you might know, makers of The Division 2 and the upcoming Avatar game and Star Wars game, he has stepped down.
Ooh.
So getting a little leadership change over there.
He's like, I do Division, but Avatar and Star Wars is too much.
Sony is beginning its PS5 software beta program. So if you want to be Sony's little guinea pig for
Nope.
betas, go ahead and sign up over
Nope.
on Sony's official website.
I
Pokemon
was part of the
Unite.
launch beta.
Pokemon Unite is a new MOBA game that's coming out in July for Switch and mobile, I
Hmm.
believe. So
Yep.
that's interesting.
Eh,
The online servers for LA Noire, Max Payne 3, and Grand Theft Auto Online for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 will officially be shutting down on December 16th.
let's get some F's in the chat for Rockstar.
The Medium, which is I think the Series X is and S is only exclusive right now.
Hmm.
It's coming to PS5 September 3rd, officially announced. Cyberpunk 2077 is coming back to the PlayStation Network finally on June 21st. So around the time that you're hearing this podcast. So congrats. It's still broken. Don't buy it on the Play Store. If you have a PS5, it runs fine. I've played it on PS5. It works. It's nothing to
It's
write
not
home
optimal.
about, but it works. If you have a PS4 though, don't get it.
Play it on Stadia if you can.
Steam Next Fest is happening right now until June 22nd, so it's going to end pretty quick. Includes over 700 free game demos to play. So if you're interested in any games, go ahead and check Steam.
That's pretty cool.
Might have a demo for it. I think there's some other things to talk about too, but I forgot about them. So I think that'll be all for the news. That's it for the news. Regarding back at the very beginning of this podcast, I talked about Bethesda making some interesting remarks regarding the PS5. Pete Hines, if you don't know him, one of the leads of Bethesda, he actually kind of sort of apologized to PlayStation fans. He was, talking about exclusivity, and he basically said like, "Hey, I have a PS5. I play all consoles. I get it. It sucks." And then he's like, "I'm sorry, but that's just the way things are." So
Hmm.
it's kind of nice of him to say that. And then there's been this thing going around about Todd Howard was talking about Elder Scrolls 6, and he like kind of stumbled on his words talking about what platforms it's coming to. I think people really need to let this rest because people are like, they're really hanging on to that Phil Spencer quote about him saying that, existing IP that has tradition on consoles will continue. Really believe what he was talking about was like Elder Scrolls Online, Fallout 76. These games will continue to run on PlayStation and, wherever else it is. Elder Scrolls 6, I would be shocked if it came to PlayStation. Now, who knows? It does seem like Pete Hines is like, I think he's the head of Bethesda. Well, no, Todd Howard is. I don't know. He's up there. He's one of the higher ups, and
Listen, we get plenty of lies from Todd. We can't believe it. The word he says.
it's true. But I do think that maybe Bethesda wasn't forced into this buyout because it was ZeniMax that sold, not
Hmm.
Bethesda Studios. So I could definitely see them being like, "Hey, could we release it on PS5 in like 2 years? Like Starfield. Like we were making this for PlayStation. We have a version right here in the
Hmm.
back. Like
Yeah,
2 years Xbox. I could see it. I could
yeah.
see that happening.
I bet you there's a lot of people that at Bethesda that were like, oh,
Yeah,
when they got
definitely.
bought
Like
out.
they've been third party for 20 years.
Hmm.
And,
Well, even more than that because they were making games on the NES.
yeah, so it's like
They had
I
a
get it.
Mojang game on there.
And it does suck, and it's hard because people are like, oh, tradition, Elder Scrolls 1 and 2, they didn't come to any console, I don't think. And
Mm,
Morrowind was Xbox exclusive, and Skyrim didn't run on PS3 at all. Like it was a
no, it
broken
was
mess.
broken.
But the thing is, like, I really feel like it's hard to talk about tradition and Bethesda because it's hard to imagine after seeing Skyrim release on literally everything. Like that fucker was on Alexas. that's
Yeah,
that's how many places they put Skyrim. I'm
I'm
surprised.
surprised it wasn't on the Wii U.
I'm surprised it was on Wii U. They put that shit on everything. I would be shocked if Elder Scrolls 6 was Xbox and PC.
Hmm.
Shocked.
I mean, Microsoft's got that money to keep it on their platforms.
Oh, of course they do. But it's
Hmm.
also like see, Microsoft's playing a weird game now because you can tell that for Pete Hines to come out and say sorry, no one forced him to do that. You can tell that's like somewhere in him where he's like, damn, this sucks.
Hmm.
So that tells me that Bethesda higher ups are like, we still want everyone to play our games. We're happy to be a part of Xbox. I totally believe that. I totally believe that they're happy. But at the same time, you're taking a third party studio who's they have friends in the industry, they've worked with these people, they have fans, millions of them on other consoles,
Hmm.
including Nintendo too. So I could see them being like, hey, we appreciate you. We still want everyone to play our games. Like, I don't think they want only Xbox players to play Elder Scrolls 6.
No, and honestly, when I heard that announcement, I was floored that they bought ZeniMax.
Well,
Like,
everyone was.
I still can't believe that that's
And
the case.
remember, they said they're not done.
Hmm.
And this leads into another interesting conversation where I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, Nintendo doesn't buy studios,
Hmm.
They just don't. They could have bought Game Freak, if we're being honest, a long time ago. They don't do
I'm
it.
surprised they haven't.
PlayStation,
Retro is I don't even think is owned by Nintendo.
no, they just do partnerships, which
Hmm.
it's great. And it's like it's one of those things that, like, they're not going anywhere, but I think it's great.
Hmm.
PlayStation buys studios, but typically they buy studios that are bit usually the studios they buy have been making only PlayStation games
Hmm. It's kind of like a Nintendo
exclusively.
situation, but then they end up buying them.
Yeah, like Naughty Dog was making PlayStation games. Insomniac Games, yeah, they made one Xbox game, but they were making only PlayStation
Mhm.
games.
And I think the only reason they made that Xbox exclusive was because they were handed a lot of money from Xbox to do
Yeah,
so.
yeah, of course,
Hmm.
and it was a good game,
Hmm.
but still, it's like they're a Sony company.
Yeah,
And we can go over to like
and they probably got bought by Sony because of that, because they're like, oh shit, they're fucking Xbox got the money.
same with like Sucker Punch too. Sucker Punch was making Infamous exclusively before they got bought. This is they have a trend of like, oh, you're making just PlayStation games. We're really close. We
We'll
might
put
as
you
well
under
buy
our
you.
umbrella.
Microsoft has this terrible trend, and I really do think it's disruptive of an industry because
Hmm.
they are the like, oh, we have a shitload of money. We're just going to invade your industry. And listen, I do like Xbox.
Hmm.
I grew up playing the 360. That was like my first quote unquote real console. I played the GameCube and N64 and PS2 before, but when I really got into games, it was on the Xbox 360.
Hmm.
But I think Microsoft has been I I think the practices that they do are really bad. They did it with Rare, they did it with Obsidian, they did it with Ninja Theory, they did it with Bethesda. They go out and they find not companies that are making games for them, but they find popular third-party game or developers, which Rareware you could argue was a
Hmm.
Nintendo one that they just poached.
Yeah. Well, the thing was, yeah, because the whole deal with that is, I guess, like Rare, like put themselves on the market, completely and totally expecting Nintendo to buy them,
and they didn't.
and then they didn't, and they were just like, oh, that, oh,
Yeah,
or oh no. um, so like they still were making Game Boy Advance games, and they finished what GameCube games they had in the works, and then they were just the Viva Pinata Connect guys.
yeah. So, but I really think because I would argue that I mean Nintendo obviously has the money.
Yeah,
Sony doesn't really have the cash.
they're
Like
getting there. I
they're
mean,
getting
PlayStation
there.
PlayStation is the only. I think PlayStation and Sony Pictures are the only things that make Sony money anymore.
Sony Music. I mean, it's pretty popular.
Hmm.
Well, they have record labels and stuff, but yeah,
Yeah,
definitely like their
but like
movies and
they're only like consumer products
to
that
put it
they
into
because.
context, Sony is PlayStation.
Hmm.
Microsoft is not Xbox.
Yeah,
But I honestly believe that even if Sony had the money, they would not go out and buy a Bethesda
no.
because they just don't. If we're going to be honest, it's kind of a dick move.
Hmm.
And I understand like you want to get back into the race, you want to be competitive, and it worked. Like that E3 showing without the Bethesda games would not be as strong as it was. But it's still kind of a dick move. And I don't understand people celebrating taking games away from others. I don't get that.
It's like, yes, now less people will get to play this game because it's on less platforms. Yes, it's like
Like,
the whole thing with VR right now. VR is still a burgeoning industry, and seeing exclusives hurts me because that means there is less platforms for people to play that game on, especially when it's exclusive to very expensive headsets.
yeah. And there's exclusives on both sides, which is weird.
Mhm.
Like Oculus exclusives and PlayStation exclusives. So it's like,
Yeah,
what?
and
It's
and I
weird.
get PlayStation exclusives because PlayStation's making them, but there's a lot of exclusives that are coming out onto other platforms that are not being made by those companies.
To be fair,
They're just buying those.
Oculus is
Mhm.
making them. They do
Mhm.
have internal studios, so
Mhm.
that
I
is
get the
happening.
internal studio part, but I hate to see it this early on
Well,
in the
actually,
stage.
I think like the big one at the E3 showcase was this game called Fract, which isn't being made by Sony, but it's an exclusive.
Hmm.
And that's another thing too. Sony does they don't buy the cow, but they definitely buy the milk. Sony is taking Final Fantasy 16 away from everybody else.
Hmm.
And you could argue, oh, Final Fantasy is kind of a PlayStation title to begin with. It's
It's
like,
been around.
yeah, and
Final Fantasy is like that one girl that's kind of went out with everyone in your friend group,
yeah,
and now she's finally starting to get with one of them.
yeah. And but Xbox did it with Tomb Raider.
Hmm.
So and I think that's more accepted. Like, yeah, some companies just buy exclusives sometimes. That happens. But when you go out and you take 'cause Skyrim is the biggest game. And
Hmm.
Microsoft's just like, fine, we'll buy that then. And so no one
Well,
can have it.
and the thing is, Microsoft they tried to buy Nintendo a few years back, and
Yeah.
Nintendo they laughed them out of the room, which good for Nintendo.
Yeah.
Um,
And I
but they
bet
could have
you
easily there could have easily been a universe where like Mario and Zelda Breath of the Wild were just exclusive to the Xbox Series X.
and I hate it when because the whole thing about like Phil Spencer being like, oh, we're not done with acquisitions. Who gets happy at that? Who
Hmm.
gets excited hearing that? I don't understand. Who'd be like, oh yeah, go buy Sega now. It's
Which
like,
oh my
why?
god, because that's the thing. They've been getting really chummy with Sega lately, especially with Game Pass. That I could easily see them getting, Shin Megami Tensei, Persona, Yakuza exclusive to Xbox, which would suck.
Well, that would suck because those franchises would die.
Yeah,
Because
because
I'm telling you right
all those
now,
entire fan bases are not on Xbox.
Japanese players are
Mhm.
not going to go out and buy an Xbox just to play Sega games. They'll be
No,
like, "Oh, that
and I
sucks."
think that is what Xbox is expecting to happen. Is that
They
Japanese
are,
players will jump on it if they have those Japanese titles.
and I'm going to say this right now, and this might sound crazy, but I fully believe this.
Xbox made your controller too big.
The
That's where you got went wrong.
the release of Bethesda games
Mhm.
on Xbox consoles will not significantly increase the sales of Xbox devices
No.
because I believe that most other people are going to be like, "Wow, that really sucks that you took that away from us. I'm going to go play Horizon now."
Hmm.
or I'm going to go play God of War,
Or
or
I'm
I'm
gonna
going to
play it
go
on my
play
PC.
the thousands of other third-party games. Because at the end of the day, there are the Witcher 3s of the world, you know?
Hmm.
There are other games that aren't these games. And what Microsoft's really just doing is that they're just taking games away from others. And it's really shitty. And even
Yeah.
with like Final Fantasy VII Remake, that is a PS4 exclusive for now. We're already seeing things like it's coming to PC, and I'm sure one day it will come to Xbox.
And
That's
that's the
at
thing.
least the
I could
hope.
easily see Xbox buying Epic.
Maybe. I mean, I could kind of see that would be very weird because Sony kind of owns part of Epic.
Hmm.
And actually,
But they could throw in a hostile takeover there.
I actually don't see that happening because Tencent is involved with Epic, and I don't think Tencent would sell to Microsoft.
Okay.
Because that's another thing. You want to talk about hostile takeovers? Xbox has kind of started this chain reaction of panic, and now everyone's getting gobbled up. We talk about that Embracer Group,
Hmm.
that huge conglomeration of like Koch Media, THQ Nordic, Aspire, like all those other ones. They've just been buying up studios left and right all across the world. Same with Tencent. They've just been acquiring so many different studios through shares. Of course, they're public, but even then, it's like they're doing it.
Hmm.
And I think it was just like last week, Tencent acquired a minority stake in the guys that make Alan Wake, Remedy,
I guess that would explain the
and
Alan Wake remastered on the Epic Game Store.
they didn't even realize it
Hmm.
because they're publicly traded. They're like, we didn't know this, and it's just this terrible chain. And I understand when Sony's like, hey, we're gonna buy Insomniac Games. It's like that makes sense.
Yeah.
They've made Ratchet and Clank forever for you. You guys have
It's like at
worked
this
together
point, it's crazy
forever.
that I didn't know that you weren't your studio.
Exactly. But then
But
you're like
it's like
Microsoft. Then
like
Microsoft's
God,
like, "Oh, we're gonna go buy Ninja Theory." It's like, why?
because what if we saw Microsoft go in and buy like Game Freak out from under Nintendo, or HAL Laboratories, or
the, th-
Retro?
the thing is, we haven't we haven't seen any of these acquisitions bear fruit yet.
No.
We've seen them buy a lot of things. Starfield is exciting. Fallout 76 sucked.
Yeah,
Fallout 4 was pretty average.
we haven't got a
Skyrim
great Bethesda Studios game in a while.
Skyrim at launch in 2011 was like revolutionary.
I think
It,
Skyrim was an anomaly
I agree. Because even like you go back
because
to like,
Fallout 76 was great because of Obsidian.
or you New Vegas,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
which they bought which they bought Obsidian too, and
Hmm.
Obsidian's made great work on multi-platforms. New Vegas was multi-platform. KOTOR
Hmm.
2 was actually Xbox exclusive, I
But it
think.
was on PC
It was on PC
and Mac.
too. Um, but like South Park, Stick of Truth, multi-platform. Like that was
Mhm.
another multi-platform company that they're just like, oh, we'll buy you now.
Yeah.
We'll take you. You're not allowed to be on anyone else's platforms. And I'm coming from I own a Series X. Like I own a PS5. I'm not
Hmm.
being biased here at all. I'm just saying like as gamers, as audience of the gaming industry, it's really sickening to see people celebrate this stuff. And to be like, oh, are they going to buy Square Enix next? Oh, I want them to get a Japanese company. Buy
No.
Konami. It's like, and then people will also go on the other side and be like, oh, Sony, you should buy Square Enix. You should buy Konami. It's like, no, that makes the industry worse.
Hmm.
When you just go out and buy everything, that makes it worse.
You know, when everyone's Xbox, nobody is.
Nobody's Xbox. And that's the thing, too, is that I really feel like this is Xbox's last hurrah.
Yeah.
The Xbox One crashed and burned. Phil Spencer came in, and all he's proven so far is that they can launch games broken, fix them in 3 years. Sea of Thieves, Master Chief Collection, Halo 5.
I argue that never got fixed.
They added things in there. Like they did
Yeah.
add Forge mode into there.
Eventually.
They did add the modes that it was missing. Split screen did eventually come.
Remember
But
when
that's what I'm
couch
saying. Like they
co-op was no
launch
longer a
broken
thing?
games, or they cancel games, or they release Crisis 3. Like, guys, come on. I know the Series X is new and exciting, but this stuff wasn't that long ago. We
Hmm.
do have to remember the very recent past. The
Xbox was
only
the company that wasn't going to let you share games with your friends or sell your games.
and I'm not even talking about that era because that was pre Phil Spencer.
Hmm.
But the best games that came out in Xbox One, Cuphead, which isn't theirs.
It's multi-platform.
What else? I don't know.
Yeah. So I think the
And
Master Chief Collection was the biggest reason to get an Xbox One.
that would think wasn't playable
Hmm.
for like a year or two, and it's still being
And that's the
fixed.
thing. Like at the end of the day, Xbox has always been the Halo machine.
And I
That's the
think that's
reason to get an
and
Xbox.
when you bank on one game, that's not
Hmm.
great.
That's like if Nintendo all they had was like just Mario,
Just Mario.
just Mario.
And they're doing like well, he's done that, and he's spent a shitload of money buying everything
Hmm.
because he was like, "Wow, we can't make games. Let's just go buy everyone else."
And like the thing is with a lot of those Japanese studios, if they were to go out and buy them, they probably could because a lot of them aren't really like that. You know, they don't have a lot of like big huge finances like some Western studios have.
Well, yeah, and Microsoft, they have unlimited money. We talk about
Hmm.
all the time. They spent 8 billion on Bethesda. They made it back the next quarter. It was
Yeah.
nothing. It was pocket change.
Hmm.
If they really wanted to, they would just go to everyone and whoever said yes. That's it.
Like they spent more on Cinemax than Disney did on arguably the biggest movie franchise ever made.
Yeah, I would argue that it is the
Hmm.
biggest movie franchise ever made.
Like I guess aside from the current Avengers
True.
current.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But like as far as its legacy goes, Star
Yeah.
Wars is everyone knows Star Wars.
The Marvel
Yeah,
stuff could still just be a blip in time. Who knows?
yeah.
We'll have to see in the
In 10
next 20
years, who
years.
knows? Because no other studios made it work. Who
Yeah.
knows how long Marvel can keep it up? But
But
I don't know.
we need to see because going back, I loved Microsoft's E3 conference. I
Hmm.
think they made a lot of great announcements, but the thing is, a lot of that stuff, well, it's all coming to PC still, which that's never going to change. They're PC and console. So it's still like, oh, I want to get Series X, but it's also on PC. And the second thing is, I would say 80% of those games that we saw that were exclusive were either JPEGs or cinematic trailers.
Yep.
We didn't actually see games. And we know almost everything that they're making, which means they have zero surprises for the next couple of years because we know everything.
Hmm.
So next
Which
E3,
is a
we're gonna
great way to blow everyone out of the water.
yeah,
But
it is. But
now,
for the next 2 years, we're gonna see games release, and so far, the only exclusive that they had, granted they didn't make, but the only exclusive that they had is the medium, and that wasn't that great.
Mhm.
So, like, I don't know. And they talk about like, oh, we're still gonna make consoles and stuff. If the Series X is a failure like the Xbox One, and not only that, not only is it a failure, but you went out and spent billions of dollars on other companies and it still failed.
Mhm.
At some point, Microsoft's gonna be like, this thing is just bleeding money. We gotta cut it
I
off.
mean, I think Microsoft is ready to kill it at the original Xbox, but
Probably.
somehow it just kept going. Um, I don't see the really a long future for Xbox. I could see them being a games as a service situation where they're just you have Game Pass. That's on everything. That's your moneymaker is Game Pass. You have it on
Yeah.
PC, you have it on Nintendo, you have it on PlayStation, you have it on Stadia, I guess too. Have it integrated in that somehow. I don't know.
That'd be the
Or
best thing for
you
Stadia.
just do what Stadia does: sell a controller and a little streaming box, and there you go. There's your games.
Which, if
Um,
you remember, that's what people thought Scarlet was. Codename Scarlet.
yeah,
It turned out to be the One S, or not the One S, the
X.
Series S,
Yeah,
which I think the Series S is still a complete waste of money. Whoever buys that is just kind of a fucking idiot.
yeah. Like I get it, like what it's meant for, because it's very competitive with the digital PlayStation, but it can't do as much as the digital PlayStation.
It also has
At
no
a, at a
memory.
Yeah, because that's the thing. The only way you can expand the memory on it is with a $200 hard drive that makes it equal to the price of the one step up that already has that much storage inside of it.
Yeah, it's a complete. I mean, I'm sure they're making lots of money off of it,
Mhm.
but
I could the only situation I see that anyone buying a Series S for is if they have, if they had a kid that they want to play Xbox game with. It's like dad buys the X, the kid gets the S.
well, actually, right now, what I think
Mhm.
it is people just want the next generation. Like people are
Mhm.
so hungry for it that they're willing to buy a series or yeah, Series S.
Mhm.
They don't really want it, but they want a new Xbox. So they're like, oh,
Also,
I'll get this one.
Xbox, figure out the names, please.
Yeah, the
Figure out the
names
names.
suck.
Just number. Just what was wrong with number? You just keep putting 360 more numbers on there.
You had the first one, then you went to 360, and then you went back to one, and now we're like
Well, see,
cars.
I get it. Say they had Xbox One, then they did a 360, and they went back to one.
Oh shit. Anyways, yeah, this is I don't know, but I hate it when fucking people applaud that shit. Like, yay, I'm so happy Microsoft bought Bethesda. It's like,
Ooh,
why?
I have
It's I
less
mean, I know
options
why.
now.
I know why. It's a bunch of fucking fanboys that they think that they
And
won or something because the company that like bought something and took stuff away from the other company. It's like, what? Do you think people are really going to stop buying PlayStations now because of that? No. It's all you're doing is making your. I mean, you're doing nothing. I don't know. If you're a fanboy, you got problems with your life
yeah,
and you need to figure yourself out. Like you're a sad person if you're a fanboy for a multi-million billion-dollar company. If you're simping for $1 billion company, you need to figure yourself out. But besides that, if you're rooting for other people not to have something, you're just kind of a miserable person. And you're not happy. You only get happiness from other people being miserable. Because it's not like you're getting anything. What? They're coming to Game Pass, I guess. Maybe you could be excited about that, but they were
yeah.
before.
And I get people wanting, excited about their investment they made because the Xbox Series X is not cheap.
No, it's
And
not.
if you went out and spent a lot of money on it, oh great, that's great for you. If that's all
But
you
the
got, that's
but,
the only thing you got. Great.
but the thing is, it was coming anyways.
Hmm.
Regardless if they bought it, you were getting Starfield anyways. And what you are you upset that it's not an exclusive? Who cares? Like who cares?
It's
I
like
just
you're the
think
one who went
it's
out and bought the console that is notorious for not having exclusives.
yeah. And I guess
So
that's the thing now that you can say like the whole Xbox has no games. It has games now,
yeah,
kind of.
they remedied that.
It has JPEGs. They fixed it by
Where's Beyond Good and Evil 2, huh?
maybe that's the thing. Maybe PlayStation and to a smaller extent Nintendo fans fucking willed this to existence. They made fun of Phil Spencer so much, being like, "Hey, you have no games." He was like, "You know what?
Fuck
Fine,
you.
I'll buy them all." We'll see who has no games then. It's
And then we'll
fucking
put ourselves out of business, and then nobody gets any games.
because you think about it, what the coalition, they're not fucking doing anything.
No.
343, they're still trying to fix a game that released 6 years ago. Rare, they're still trying to fix a game that released 3 years
Three
ago.
for three still fixing a game that's supposed to release a year ago.
Yeah, so like they're the studios that they owned prior to 6 years ago. They're firing on one side. The only one that's working is Playground Games with Forza.
Yeah,
That's it.
Forza's great.
Yeah, but
It's
even
been the
then,
most consistently good series that they have.
Forza Horizon, they've had what like six in the last 10 years. They
Yes,
need
that's
to
all they do.
fucking chill.
I mean, they even like they were also releasing the regular Forza games alongside them, and nobody bought those. So I don't know if we're getting another Forza. If we're
We
getting
are.
Forza.
They mentioned it.
Yeah.
They said they're still working on it, so
Okay. Well,
still getting it somewhere.
I don't see why.
But that's my Xbox run. Anyways, to end this episode for real this time, we are going to talk about our top 5 games from E3. Now, Jake, I just asked you to write down your 5. I don't know, most excited, favorite, whatever blew you away.
Hmm.
I just told you to pick 5 games that you liked from E3 that we saw there. Doesn't have to be new, doesn't have to be anything. We just saw it at E3 somewhere.
Hmm.
And I figured we'll just go back and forth and just talk about these and why we like them and, why we're excited.
So I kind of put mine in order of how excited I was for him. So I'll go from like 5 to 1.
Okay. I put mine randomly,
Okay.
but
I'd
that's
say
fine.
at my number 5, I have Halo Infinite, just because
Okay.
like I am excited for that game, but it's existed for the what since 2018. I was super excited in 2018 when they announced it. Um, but now it's 2021. I'm just like, all right, I'm been excited. I love Halo, and I'm excited to see where it's going, but I'm just ready for it to come out now.
Hmm.
I've seen enough of it, so it's still on my list. But there's newer stuff coming out that I'm more excited for now, and I like whatever they're doing with the multiplayer they've been showing off. I'm excited for that. I think they're getting it finally getting in the rhythm of what Halo is,
Hmm.
or figuring out what they need to do to make it right. So I'm hoping it comes out good. Multiplayer looks promising, and whatever the campaign is now and in whatever form it's in, I'm excited to see when that comes out in the next 3 years.
Yeah. Hopefully this winter, because
I hope so.
I do. I hope that
Xbox needs a W.
I hope they've learned. I hope it comes out good. I hope the campaign is good. The multiplayer does look fun. There's
Hmm.
some interesting things that they are doing with it, which you know, I'm not a Halo multiplayer guy. I played Reach a lot, and I like some things that they're saying, like how they do have a battle pass, but you only buy it once. That's it,
Hmm.
and then you can't lose out on things. It's not seasons. Once you buy it, you earn it whenever you want at your pace. I'm like, I love that. No
Hmm.
FOMO.
Because that's kind of how Halo Reach was.
Hmm.
Because you had all these things you could earn, but you got points, and you
Yeah.
could choose what like ones you wanted to invest in, which is
Hmm.
kind of how the new battle pass for Halo works. Is you
Yeah.
choose where your points go to.
And they're having a theme, so like the first one's Reach themed. I'm like, that's perfect for me.
Hmm.
I will play that, and I'll see how far I go into it. But it I'm rooting for them because they almost fucked it up, but then they delayed it, and I think they made the right choice. And hopefully, they're delaying it enough. Because even this winter,
Honestly,
like they don't need it this winter. Sony,
mhm.
what maybe has Horizon 2, but even then, I don't think it's gonna hit.
Though they do need a big thing for their platform to sell their box.
Sony doesn't have
Um,
one.
no, I mean they had Demon Souls, Spider Man.
It's,
They kind of had Spider Man.
it's PS4.
I honestly I didn't find out it had a PS4 release until like the week it came out.
Yeah. No,
um,
it's. I mean,
but yeah, that's
Demon
that's a
Souls
problem with
is
it.
a pretty. It's a niche game, and
Yeah,
it's
it's
pretty
not the
hardcore.
biggest game. I think it's a big deal that it came back,
And even
but
Ratchet and Clank, which is their other big exclusive, it's like,
mhm.
yeah, I mean, Ratchet and Clank's cool, but it's not God of
you know
War, you know.
I could easily see that game coming to PS4 as well with all the news we're getting.
I don't think so. I think
No,
it's physically impossible the way that they have it run.
okay,
So
that's
we have
fair.
at least one.
Yeah,
And Returnal, the Housemark
yeah.
game, which that could be bullshit too, but I digress.
Hmm.
So number 5, Halo Infinite.
Hmm.
I like that.
I'm excited to see what happens with that eventually.
So I went ahead and I quickly put these in order, which there are some. I guess I have some honorable mentions. Um, the guys that made Suikoden, their game looks beautiful. I want to see more of it. I'm very excited for it. It's like something in the 100 Heroes. I can't remember, but they announced a prequel, which is interesting. And it's coming to Game Pass. That's cool. I probably won't get it on there. That's a Nintendo game, probably for me to play it on the go. But that game looks awesome. But my number 5, believe it or not, is Fatal Frame, Maiden of Blackwater. So this game came out on Wii U,
Hmm.
Japan exclusive. It wasn't that good. I think it got like a 60 something on Metacritic. I really like the aesthetic of the Fatal Frame games. I've played 1, 2, and 3 on my PS3 through the classics, and I like them. Some titles are better than others, of course, but I think as a concept, it's pretty cool.
Hmm.
It's terrifying. All you have is your camera. Has that kind of Outlast vibes type thing, which I guess Outlast has a Fatal Frame type vibe because
Yeah.
Fatal Frame came first. I'm excited that we're getting this game though, and it's coming on PlayStation, which I will get it on there. I'm not getting it on Switch. Coming on Xbox too,
Oh, it is. I didn't know that.
but I think it's coming on Xbox. Definitely PlayStation and Switch.
Hmm.
Um,
I
but
still can't believe
I'm
we're getting
excited.
that ported from the Wii U before Zelda, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess.
Shit happens, but I'm excited for this. It looks creepy, it looks atmospheric, and that's what I'm looking for.
Mhm.
And I love those just Japanese horror games.
Oh yeah.
I'll import those Taiwanese games that are like cheesy horror, but I'm like, I don't know, this is just the Asian aesthetic. It works.
Hmm.
So
They
yeah,
got they got good horror mythology.
that's my number 5. Fatal Frame, Maiden of Blackwater. A little surprise there, I'm sure.
And with that, the Wii U is slowly losing one more thing to keep it relevant.
Dude, it's not relevant anymore.
I mean,
Even the two games are like, oh, Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, guys. It's on GameCube.
yeah, but it's also got the DS games and Game Boy Advance. It's the only platform that has Game Boy Advance Virtual Console, which is cool,
Man.
and I want that back. When I saw an article that was like about that Castlevania thing, the Advance Collection, where it's like, ooh, Game Boy games coming to the Switch, and I'm like, oh my gosh, are we getting Game Boy Advance? It's like, no, it's Castlevania. Okay. But that's still exciting. That's one more step. My number 4, I guess, would be Elden Ring. I
Ooh.
love the Souls games, so and seeing that this is like an open world Souls game, which I did not realize that was what it was supposed to be. That's really exciting. I'm I love the From Software titles too. I'm just a big fanboy for those.
Yeah.
So I'll buy
I'm
this
an
day one.
idiot.
This is a day one thing.
I started playing Sekiro the other night.
Oh yeah,
Good game.
yeah. Sekiro's good.
I'm not far, but I'm having fun.
I remember because that game and Ghost of Tsushima got announced at very similar times, so I'd always get the names of them mixed up, even though they're very different games.
Very different, yes.
Um,
That's cool though. Yeah, I
mhm,
didn't. I'm so out of the Dark Souls, whatever you want to call them, Bloodborne loop
mhm,
that I didn't even consider it. It's cool. I'm gonna get
mhm.
it. Elden Ring sounds awesome, and I'm
Just
like,
the
oh
whole thing with like George R. R. Martin like creating that world for it, and the just the music is it's Dark Souls. It's so good.
yeah. I'm just
Um,
I
I
I've just never really been into it.
I would like to see more of them. Like for this seems like From Software is kind of getting out of their everything is designed like Dark Souls phase.
Hmm.
Because gameplay is still very Dark Souls mechanically, but the world is a lot more open now, so that gives a lot more freedom to how you approach situations in that world. I think Sekiro was a big step because it had like the grapple hook,
Hmm.
so it gave you a lot of more movement and it made a lot of things faster.
Hmm.
I think this is the next big step for their design philosophy.
Definitely, definitely. Cool. Elden Ring, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My
Oh,
number
Elden Ring.
4 is a Japanese-esque type game, Trek to Yomi. Saw this
Oh
at
yeah, that
the
game looked cool.
Saw this at the Devolver Digital game, smaller independent game. Of course, is it independent? I don't know. They made a joke about that because like I got a publisher,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a side-scrolling 2.5 type D. It's more like 3D actually, but just something from a side angle.
Mm-hmm.
It's samurai. Looks like it's in feudal Japan.
It's a very Kawasawa. I can't remember his name.
Kurosawa. It's
Kurosawa. Yeah,
the black
yeah.
and whites, the
Mhm.
rains and all that. Yeah, it's very
It's
cool.
got kind of a Ghost of Tsushima kind of vibe to it too,
Hmm.
which it seems to be like a lot of games are kind of starting to follow suit in that.
Makes sense. It usually it's kind of like what we saw with God of War. Everything was fucking
Oh, everything's
Nordic.
Vikings.
So the same
Mhm.
things happen. Like, oh, everyone likes Ghost of Tsushima. It's been about 4 years, 5 years since that announcement. People are like, okay, here's our
Mhm.
game. But this one looks cool. Trek to Yomi. It doesn't look like it's doing its own thing, just taking the aesthetic and period.
Mhm.
Mark my words. Assassin's Creed Japan
I
is
don't know how it
finally gonna.
hasn't happened yet.
No, no, it's gonna finally happen because
Like
that's
it
what they
doesn't make
do.
sense.
They copied God of War with Valhalla,
Mhm.
and they're gonna copy Ghost of Tsushima.
Because that would be I would get back into Assassin's Creed if they did that.
Everyone would. It'd be the highest selling one,
Oh yeah,
hands down, hands down.
it would be so. That'd be cool.
What's your number
Um,
3?
my number 3 is it's the Super Monkey Ball Anniversary Collection.
All
Um,
right,
I love Super Monkey Ball. I grew up with the first one. I never really played any of the other ones, but I loved that first one a ton.
I love Super Monkey
Um,
Ball.
so I'm excited to see because when they did Banana Blitz HD, I was like,
Hmm.
why did they do Banana Blitz HD? Okay, but I want to play that one because I've heard it's so much better way of experiencing that game than the Wii controls.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's so cool. We're getting 1, 2, and deluxe on there.
yeah, it's
So
very
I'm really
awesome.
excited. It's got and it's they didn't say if it had online play. I hope it does. Because
Hopefully,
that would suck if the like multiplayer segments didn't have online.
have to
Um,
old school it.
oh yeah,
It's possible.
that's fine. Um, but yeah, I'm excited for that. It's coming out to everything. So I'm gonna get it on the
You
PS5.
know, let's just say theoretically you got it on Switch. You know how they
Mhm.
had the whole thing like, oh, you can feel the ice cubes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think when you're playing Super Monkey Ball on the
Felt the
Switch,
monkey.
you can feel the monkey? Like,
You
I
hear
can
I
actually
I in there.
feel that.
And plus, I really hope this sells well because I would love to see more like good monkey ball games come out.
Me too. I hope it
Um,
sells well as well.
because it's some, like good monkey ball games with really good physics because that's been kind of missing from the series for a
Mm.
while.
Here's
Um,
hoping.
yeah,
Kind of
and
goes back to
also,
what I was saying earlier about older titles being revitalized.
hmm it's something that I think Sega can make a lot of money on.
Sega's been firing on all cylinders. They're doing
Mhm.
really good. All those Japanese studios actually have been doing really good lately.
Oh,
So,
there was something I didn't want to mention earlier. I forgot to say. Um, Xbox they had all the Yakuza titles on their platform. They said
hmm
every Yakuza title's on here now. I'm like, they don't have the zombie one or the Japanese one.
yep, they don't have Dead Souls
They have Dead Souls.
or the other, yeah, those two
Mhm.
Japanese ones.
They
So,
lied to us.
fucking liars. And I bet you most people don't even realize that those games exist, but they
Nope.
do, and
I
I
didn't even know
own
Dead
them.
Souls existed until I went to Game Nut and saw it there.
Yep. They made a zombie one. All right. Susan's hounding me, so let's go ahead and finish this up. My number 3 is not Super Monkey Ball. It's Atomic Hearts that we saw at the Xbox conference.
Okay.
This game looks fucking awesome. I know nothing about it.
Hmm.
This was the first time I'd heard about it. I guess it had been talked about before. It's like this Russian cyberpunk type thing. It had
And that's
awesome
getting
music
a big
and
coming in a big
awesome
way too in the gaming industry.
the combat looked cool, the
Hmm.
aesthetic. I loved everything about it. I was like, this looks fucking cool.
It's like Cyberpunk but done better.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that I'm going to be honest with Cyberpunk, the one thing that I wanted, and maybe this is my fault, because I went ahead and read all the Alita Battle Angels, the original run,
Hmm.
and then some of the newer stuff too, which I like. But I read it before playing Cyberpunk, and I got really into like a big thing in that world, which is in every Cyberpunk world, is like augmentations, changing how you look, customization, and things like that.
Hmm.
Cyberpunk doesn't go that far. You can't change how you look.
No, but hey, it's also first person, so you never get to see how you look
And it's
anyways.
first person. Oh man.
So I
So
don't get why they have such an extensive character creator in that game, but
I
you
know.
never get to see it unless there's a mirror.
I know. And I'm not saying I want that from Atomic Hearts, but noticing the things like seeing your hand open up and like stabbing is it just looked really cool. So
Hmm.
I don't have high hopes or not high hopes. I don't have high expectations because I temper all of them unless it has the words Zell and duh or persona. Um but Atomic Hearts looks awesome and it's my third game from E3, a game that I
Hmm.
had never heard of. Never heard of. And it's Russian. It's
Hmm.
fucking awesome.
That's definitely on. I probably should have that on my list too because that one looked really cool.
Yeah, but
I forgot the name of it though.
yeah.
um, I guess my number two would be Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 before whatever they're gonna name it. Just because honestly, they kind of blew my expectations for the game out of the water with that last trailer they showed for us.
Yeah.
I did not expect to have like the time travel mechanics or
Yeah.
or the Skyward Sword aesthetic, which makes a lot of sense that they're pushing Skyward Sword now because I'm wondering if there's going to be a big tie-in story wise to Skyloft and that world from the
hmm
first in the timeline Zelda game.
I'm assuming there's going to be Loft Wings because
Hmm.
how else was he skydiving?
Also, I was thinking too. It's like, what if that's the same Link from Skyward Sword?
It might be.
Because
I think
that would be an interesting tie-in.
there's a lot of interesting
Mm-hmm.
theories going on right now. But yeah, I'm Breath of the
Because
Wild 2.
it,
It's
se- it seems like Nintendo is taking like the timeline a bit more seriously now with like or the story of Zelda.
I mean, yeah, they did the Hyrule Historia, which had the official timeline, which is the first time they actually cared about the timeline. And
Hmm.
then when they published that, Breath of the Wild was in development.
Hmm.
And in Breath of the Wild, we have the cutscenes where she mentions like Hero of Time, Hero of Twilight. So it's kind of converging all the timelines. And I do think they're going to do like not a multiverse thing per se, but a multiverse thing type
Yeah,
thing.
because
And if not multiverse, then time travel, dimensional travel, something like that.
the big thing with Breath of the Wild was that like it was hard to pinpoint any one timeline it could be in because it had elements of all the three timelines in it. It
Exactly.
had monsters from the Fallen Hero timeline and cartography that was only ever in the Fallen Hero timeline. It
And I think
had
that's cool.
the ocean references to like the salt you could find around,
Hmm.
and it also had the mirror, the Twilight mirror, and mentions of the hero of Twilight. Plus, you could just have Wolf Link as your
I was
companion
about to
of the
say,
game.
plus,
So
which I don't think that's canon, but
they do say you summon him from another dimension, so that could be a thing. I'm
maybe
wondering if
then,
maybe there's like, there's the split timeline, and then at some point it converges back into one, which is Breath of the Wild, or Breath of the Wild's its own thing. I don't know.
I don't know.
But
It is
Skyward Sword
interesting,
was
though.
very, very much a part of the world's design because you
Hmm.
could find a lot of locales
Oh, yeah,
from Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild.
definitely, definitely. I'm surprised, actually. I don't know. I don't have Zelda on my list at all.
Hmm.
I love Zelda. It's one of the most important game franchises in my life. To me, it's just I don't know. I'm gonna have to see it, and I'm gonna have to play it. And they're right now they're focusing a lot on story, which is good. I
Hmm.
like that. Because Breath of the Wild original didn't focus on story in the trailers. It focused on the world and all that. This
Yeah,
one is it's
which I think
focusing on the world,
it was
but
important for them to do that to get open world Zelda right.
well, yeah, but they definitely could
Hmm.
have.
I
Which
don't
who
think
knows?
I think they use that as a learning experience in how to do story in an open world.
Yeah, so we'll see. Like, I'm hoping that the side quests are better, but I am
Hmm.
excited for it. I'm just not. I don't know. That trailer was cool. I wasn't blown out of the water though. I
Yeah.
was like, this looks like Breath of the Wild. Yep, I mean Breath of the Wild too. That's what it looks like. I don't know. They need to show me dungeons. They need to show me the hook shot.
Yeah.
I need that stupid shit. Like, oh, it's just it's
Dude, the hook
nostalgia. It's like,
shot
yeah,
would have made all the difference in Breath of the Wild, I think, because that would have been a really cool mechanic to
that's
have.
maybe it's my fault and its expectations, but when they talked about open world Zelda, the first thing that came to mind was, oh, you see a dungeon up there, you'll find the hook shot somewhere,
Mhm.
and then
Or
you
maybe
can
not
just
even
do
the
it
hook shot,
whenever.
but the little like hook and rope thing from Wind Waker would have been
Something, yeah,
cool.
yeah, like
Just something to
something.
swing around on.
But the only fucking traversal puzzles in that game were fucking climbing,
Yeah.
and then it rained.
You couldn't do any. Man, I remember the biggest disappointment I had was getting the fully upgraded like climbing gear and being like, "Oh, I can climb in the rain now," and then I couldn't climb in the rain.
Yeah, it's a great thing. Anyways, so that was your number two.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely my number two.
All
I
right.
think.
My number two is Advanced Wars Reboot Camp. Is that what it's
Yes.
called?
Yep. Reboot camp.
One and two. Fuck yeah. I love Advanced Wars. I think I've talked about it plenty of times on the podcast how I feel like Fire Emblem has I love Fire Emblem, but I feel like they've really overcompensated. And
Hmm.
they're just like, oh, Fire Emblem, fuck Advanced Wars. Days of Ruin was good. Battalion Wars 1 and 2 on the GameCube and Wii, great games. They're different, but they're great. Advanced Wars on the Game Boy Advance, great
Hmm.
games. And we're getting them back, and the art style is fucking spot on for
Oh
those old
yeah,
Game Boy
they
games.
look like toys, and I think
It's
that's the
perfect.
perfect aesthetic for Advance Wars.
And the thing is, like, it did go more realistic in the last game with Days of Ruin.
Hmm.
I would love it if they did go more realistic later, but I'm excited about this. Everyone better fucking buy this game so we get a new Advance Wars.
I love
Because
Nintendo's.
I think this is the last hurrah.
Hmm.
If this doesn't do good, I think they're done. So fucking buy this game. Buy two
I
copies.
I I love Nintendo's philosophy of like let's remake a game but make it look like toys.
Well, it's actually WayForward making this, right?
Yep.
Yep, makers of Shantae. So good for them. Good for WayForward.
Yeah, WayForward has been like knocking it out lately. Yeah, but yeah, I would have definitely had. I think I would say Advance Wars is an honorable mention for me as well because that's exciting seeing that series come back. But I have zero history with it.
Yeah,
But I'm excited to pick this up because that'll be a good way to like. I'm gonna buy it like right when it comes out so I
yeah.
can play through it and see what it's like.
Hell yeah, it's great. Um, Jake, what's your number one? I'm sure we can guess.
Uh, I mean, it's no secret that Metroid Dread stole the show for me.
Yeah,
It's been a 15-year long journey. It's insane to see this actually be real and still be called Metroid Dread.
it's pretty crazy.
So I it's super cool. I like how they're going really into like the survival horror aspect of that because I don't know if you kind of noticed, but like those Emmy robots, they're going to be following you and pursuing you the entire game,
Yeah. Hmm.
and you can't really kill them.
Yeah.
Um,
It's cool.
and I that's something like Metroid's always had like a eerie aesthetic. Like it's always had like kind of creepy locales, crazy
Yeah, you're
rogue character
alone.
design and stuff. But it's never been like I don't think this intense, except for like Metroid Fusion, where
Hmm.
also had the similar thing where you're being hunted down by your infected suit. Which that was also pretty good. But it's like they're evolving what Fusion did,
Yeah.
and I think that's a good base work to go off of. Um, and I'm excited to see like what the finale for this story is going to be as well. Because it's gonna have because Metroid Fusion ended very open endedly, but I think this one's gonna have a fairly closed off ending, which will be
Probably.
nice.
Yeah.
Just
So
because I don't think we'll see a Metroid 6, and if we do, it won't be for a long time.
yeah,
Um, but this is everyone also go buy this. This might also be the last hurrah for 2D Metroid. So
we have a
um,
lot of game series at stake here, you guys. We need you.
Advance Wars and Metroid, we haven't seen there really any of them since the Game Boy.
Yeah. My number one does is not in peril of being canceled at all. The Final Fantasy Pixel remasters.
Those
Uh,
are also I wanted to mention that was
there's a lot of fanboyism. You know, it's getting huge dislikes because they're coming to PC and mobile.
mhm.
I hear you all.
It's
I
disappointing
understand. It is disappointing, but the fact that we're finally getting this, finally, and I'm sure it's going to look beautiful.
because I know we had talked about it a lot for like just like 6 or 4, but I never would have expected for
I
all
never
6
would have
of them.
expected all of them because
Mhm.
one's great, two's great, three's okay, four's great, five's okay, six is one of the best ever made.
Mhm.
We're finally getting these Pixel remasters. We're getting them on PC. Buy a laptop, you fucking babies. It's on phones.
I mean, I'm sure
I
any
get it.
laptop could run these.
Oh, I'm sure. And I have full confidence that they will come to console eventually. I
Yeah.
do. The Final Fantasy VII PC port came to consoles. And I think it's going to be more or less the same with this. I think they're just trying to double dip because they know people will not resist. They can't resist the urge. They'll be like, fine, I'll just get on PC. But they really want it on console. And then when it comes to console, they'll be like, I'll buy it again, you know?
Yeah. I'm
But
disappointed we didn't get to see any footage from it, but I've heard it's going to be a lot like the Dragon Quest Pixel
mhm.
remasters
and
that they showed
that
off.
game, Dragon Quest 3 remastered looks beautiful.
Hmm.
So I'm sure these games will also look gorgeous.
I want to see more games like this. I would love it if Pokemon went back to like this kind of a
Please.
style.
Maybe they will. Maybe they'll see
Hmm.
this and be like, shit, we
It's like
need
we
to do
can't do
this.
3D. Like Arceus, that killed us making this game. Let's just do a 2D game next.
Yeah.
That'd be so nice. Like same with Diamond and Pearl remakes. I wish like I don't know if I love the aesthetic they've gone for. It's kind of a Link's Awakening vibe, but it doesn't look as good as Link's Awakening.
Yeah, it's not shiny and pretty.
No, it
Mhm.
doesn't look like a diorama, which that was the selling point of Link's Awakening.
Yeah.
Is that they got that look right, and they're trying at Game Freak, and I it's still a ways out. I heard we were supposed to get some footage at E3 that showed it looking a little better, but I don't know.
That didn't happen.
We didn't see that,
Yep.
so
So
I don't think it will. Most times Pokemon games don't look much better than they originally are showed off as. Same with Arceus, with it coming out very early next year.
mhm.
I don't think it's going to look much better than what we saw earlier this year.
I agree. I agree.
Um,
But I think that's our
mhm.
top 5 games. Roger, you suck for not being here. Oh well, you don't get a pizza party anymore. Just kidding. We miss you, Roger, but we'll see him in the next show.
Mhm.
Um, with that being said, though, I think that's it for this very long podcast. Coming up on 3 hours.
Mhm.
Pretty
I did
good
want to make
for
a quick mention of WarioWare is back, and that's exciting.
yeah. Warrior is
I'm
back. Yeah.
excited for that as
Well,
well.
honestly, E3, it wasn't terrible for coming off a year where there's a pandemic, the world came to a halt. These companies were not ready to show anything. They probably haven't been working half the time. It
No,
wasn't that bad.
no,
So
it was actually like there was a lot of. I think there's a lot more conferences at this E3 than we've ever had, and
it
I
was
don't think I think
interesting.
there's a lot of conferences that didn't necessarily need to happen
Yeah,
like at
I
all.
I wholeheartedly agree. So
But if Sony would throw their hat back in there, I think that would have made E3 just that much better.
true.
Mhm.
Here's hoping that they do. Anyways, that'll be it for this podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for watching. We appreciate you. If you're listening on podcast feeds, thank you. We appreciate your support as always. Um, if you would like to support the show more, go over to patreon.com/slash that one Andrew. Link is in the description or just type it in. Please tell your friends or your enemies about this podcast. Tell anyone. You never know. Even if they don't play games, maybe they're just interested to learn about video games and more about the drama that goes on in the world, and we'll talk about it. Um, I can't remember. Am I missing anything else? If you want to hear our reactions to any of the E3 shows, go ahead and check out podcast services. We have them for all the big shows. We reacted to Gearbox, Ubisoft, Square Enix, Xbox, Nintendo, all of them. So go ahead and check those out. And I think that'll do it, Jake. Thank you for joining me
As
in
always,
this inaugural video podcast. And that'll be all. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.
toodles.